Chapter 3849. Under the night sky, wisps of netherworld chi filled the entire area. Within the blood-colored netherworld chi, the faint wails of ghosts and howls of wolves were gradually being emitted. The night wind that was blowing against his face was now gradually filled with the color of blood. Looking at the faint blood color again, the entire Zhu clan manor was shrouded in a layer of faint purple clouds. The moment the blood color touched the purple clouds, it immediately disappeared without a trace. Looks like the Zhu clan's ancestors did indeed make extremely thorough preparations. Xiaohua swept a glance at the Zhu clan manor, then raised his eyes towards the source of the strange sound. Several hundred kilometers away, the outline of a blood-colored pillar of qi that soared into the sky gradually appeared. After a short moment, that outline became increasingly clear. It was very clear that the surrounding netherworld wind was blowing out from that pillar of qi. Zhuqing. Xiaohua pointed with his finger and said, "That's the Nether Wang Ghost Cave? Why is the netherworld yin energy so heavy? Taoist master? How can you see the yin energy?" The purple clouds in Zhu Cheng's eyes quickly retracted. He looked at Xiaohua and asked in astonishment. Xiaohua said disapprovingly, "My Dao sect's divine abilities are profound and unfathomable. It's not something that a Confucian cultivator like you can understand. This Xiao still has many such methods." A trace of joy appeared in Zhu Cheng's eyes. "My Zhu clan's clear sight technique is different from the clear sight techniques practiced by other Confucian cultivators. It can clearly see yin energy and otherworldly items. I didn't expect Benefactor to also have such a divine ability. Then the Phoenix Soaring Empire's once in 10,000 years disaster might be saved." Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart unconsciously thumped. He said in astonishment, "Fellow Taoist Jew, what do you mean? How did the ordinary ghost parade suddenly rise to a once in 10,000 years level?" Zhu Cheng pointed at the distant pillar of yin energy that soared into the sky and said somewhat fearfully, "That place isn't the Nether Wang Ghost Cave that my Zhu clan guards." "What? You're saying that place isn't the Nether Wang Ghost Cave that you know of?" Xiaohua was even more shocked. "Could it be that Wuyuan County has other ghost caves?" "That place isn't Wuyuan County." Zhu Cheng's teeth were somewhat chattering. "That place is Jianghu County." "Wu." Right at this moment, behind Zhu Cheng and Xiaohua, another strange hiss sounded out, and it was exactly the same as before. Zhu Cheng and Xiaohua were greatly alarmed. The two of them once again executed their divine abilities to investigate. Sure enough, under the moonlight, another blood-colored pillar of qi that seemed to reach the heavens emerged from the ground and pierced through the pitch-black night sky. "Taoist Master Xiao?" Zhu Cheng said anxiously, "My cultivation is limited, so I can't see clearly. Did you see the yin qi? Is there anything else?" Xiaohua sucked in a deep breath, nodded, and said, "That's right, this Xiao saw it. It's a straight energy pillar." A pillar of air? Zhu Cheng was taken aback again, but then he smiled bitterly and said, "I can only see the yin qi gushing out, but not the qi pillar. Looks like Taoist Zhao's cultivation has long since surpassed my expectations." "Is that your Zhu family's Yu Wang Ghost Cave? How could Xiaohua think of concealing his cultivation at this time?" he hastily asked. Zhu Qing shook his head once more. "I'm sorry to disappoint you. That place isn't the Nether Wang Ghost Cave either. It's in the direction of Fancheng County. Just how many ghost caves are there? How come ghost caves have appeared in Fancheng County, Jianghu County, and Wuyuan County?" Xiaohua said anxiously, "Moreover, if these ghost caves are all opened, what kind of disaster will there be? What is the 10,000-year disaster you're talking about? Forget it." Seeing this situation, Xiaohua already knew that the situation was urgent. He hastily shouted, "Now is not the time to investigate these reasons. Quickly take this Xiao to the Yu Wang Ghost Cave guarded by your Zhu family. Perhaps Zhu Xiang and Yu Zhongquan will still have a chance to survive." Zhu Qing naturally didn't want anything to happen to his child. As long as there is a chance of survival, he is willing to fight for it. After saying that, Zhu Cheng flew up into the air and headed in a certain direction. The two of them flew for more than 100 miles, when Zhu Cheng's figure suddenly stopped in midair. "We'll be there soon." Zhu Cheng's hands trembled slightly. Moreover, this one has already sensed the changes in the restriction inside the Yuwang Ghost Cave. The Yin Qi tonight is really powerful. Even with little Yan's blood essence, I'm afraid this ghost cave will not be able to be sealed. Taoist Master Xiao, let's hurry up a bit. Perhaps this one's blood essence will be of use. Are you sure? Xiaohua looked ahead. Among the mountains, there was a valley with a radius of several miles. This valley was completely barren. Through Xiaohua's heaven's eye, there were wisps of netherworld wind blowing out from inside. Standing high above the mountain peak, the valley was like a fierce ghost opening its mouth, stretching straight into the night sky. Zhu Cheng pointed his finger and said, "This is the Yuwang Ghost Cave." Xiaohua looked at the valley that was several li wide, and a thoughtful expression appeared in his eyes. Previously, he had taken it for granted that the ghost cave was just a cave, but when he thought about it, that ghost didn't have a physical body, so why would it need a cave? Taoist Master Xiao. A blush appeared on Zhu Cheng's forehead. He said in a low voice, "Follow this one in." Do. In Xiaohua's eyes he could see Zhu Cheng's qi and blood surging all over his body, like a layer of blood mist covering the surface of his body. Xiaohua knew that the restriction inside the ghost cave had a great influence on Zhu Cheng, so he hesitated for a moment before saying, "This Xiao knows that your blood essence is useful, but in the current situation, Zhu Xiang has already entered the ghost cave. Your Zhu family only has your blood essence left. If you also die here, in the future, if there are any movements in the ghost cave, who will guard it?" "This one." Zhu Cheng bit his lip and said in a low voice, "This one has a young son. This one should be able to, oh?" Without waiting for Zhu Cheng to finish, Xiaohua couldn't help but be surprised. Zhu Cheng was a bit embarrassed and said, "Little Yan is not of great use. This one has to think of another way. Little Yan's actions may be related to some of this one's ideas. Forget it." Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "You should go back. Your blood essence is useful, but now it seems that the sealing of a single ghost cave can't stop it. In particular, your young son is still young and still needs your guidance. The responsibility of guarding the ghost cave is great. The Zhu family can't be without a descendant. Leave this matter to this one." "This." Zhu Cheng was a bit hesitant. "Go quickly." As Xiaohua spoke, he released his divine sense and grabbed Zhu Cheng. Woo! He sent Zhu Cheng dozens of li away. Taoist. Zhu Cheng involuntarily fell from the sky. He looked in the direction of the ghost cave with some shock. He fiercely stamped his foot and flew in the direction of the Zhu family village. But when he saw the left side of the Zhu family village, Zhu Cheng's gaze fell on a 100-year-old ancient willow on the mountain ridge in the night. His figure instantly froze on the spot. The scene of Zhu Xiang climbing on the willow in the past drowned his thoughts like a tide. Xiaohua sent Zhu Cheng away. He looked up at the increasingly dense netherworld energy in the air, and his mind entered the space. "Green-robed fellow Taoist, where are you?" Jade Archive Xiaohua appeared in the space and immediately called out. Green-robed Xiaohua's figure flashed. He cupped his hands and said, "Does fellow Taoist Jade Archive have any orders?" Jade Archive Xiaohua looked at green-robed Xiaohua with starlight flickering in his eyes. Green-robed Xiaohua immediately understood what Jade Archive Xiaohua was thinking. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Fellow Taoist is mistaken. This is netherworld energy. I am just a nascent soul cultivator. How can I resist it? Fellow Taoist should think of another way?" Jade Archive Xiaohua smiled bitterly and said, "I can naturally protect the people of Wuyuan County. But I want to explore the ghost cave now. I can't split myself. Although other fellow Taoists also have divine abilities, or even better than yours. But now, after all, only fellow Taoist can leave I. Fellow Taoist's nascent soul has now entered the spirit-severing stage. Of course, you can leave your body. However, I am not the only one who can control a nascent soul, right? I still have more than 10,000 disciples in my hands to teach. You can't just watch I fall into an irrecoverable situation and let these disciples have no one to rely on. Green-robed Xiaohua was still unwilling. He blinked his eyes and argued. Jade Archive Xiaohua helplessly looked at green-robed Xiaohua and sighed. I know that going to Wuyan County this time is indeed dangerous. But we can't just watch these innocent people die in the ghost cave, right? Even if other fellow Taoists can control a nascent soul, how can they be as familiar as fellow Taoist? Besides, only fellow Taoist is proficient in the innate divine restriction Tao. If fellow Taoist doesn't go, who else can go? Alas! Green-robed Xiaohua sighed. The vicissitudes of life in his mouth were very vivid. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have comprehended so many cultivation techniques. Green-robed fellow Taoist. Jade Archive Xiaohua said word by word, the more you comprehend, the more you gain. The heavier the burden on your shoulders. Moreover, fellow Taoists taking risks today will also be the fruits of your labor in the future. Although I can force fellow Taoists to go, I know that fellow Taoist already has his own ideas. I still want fellow Taoist to decide for himself. Green-robed Xiaohua's eyes also flashed with starlight. However, after a moment he already understood the cause and effect. He immediately nodded and said, I understand. Fellow Taoist can hand over the spirit fire, Kunlun mirror, and other magic treasures to I. I will go to Wuyan County to set up the formation. And, if possible, I also want to set up defenses in the few nearby towns. The innate divine restriction Pleiades devil-devouring immortal formation should be of some use. All right, I'll leave this matter to fellow Taoist. Save as many as you can. This is good karma. It's beneficial to both you and me. Jade Archive Xiaohua was overjoyed. He handed over everything to green-robed Xiaohua and then brought green-robed Xiaohua out of the space. Green-robed Xiaohua entered his lower dantian and controlled his formless nascent soul to fly out. When he saw the surging netherworld chi, he activated his escape technique and rushed into the distance. After arranging these things, Xiaohua opened his illusion breaker eyes. His eyes flashed with a faint green light as he carefully observed. This ghost cave was indeed different from the surrounding mountain ridges. Wisps of netherworld chi floated out like smoke in an area of several li. It really was like a huge cave. Xiaohua activated his magic power and looked into the depths of the ghost cave. Although Xiaohua's current cultivation hadn't reached the stage where he could explore the netherworld, several thousand zhang was nothing difficult. Chapter 3850. Xiaohua couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice when he saw thousands of feet below the ghost cave. His figure flashed, and a yellow light flashed. Xiaohua's figure had already disappeared from his original position. He had charged into the ghost cave. Earth escape art was the earliest escape art of 5 elements that Xiaohua cultivated. Now, it had reached a high level, and he didn't need to rely on earth element items. He could use it as long as there was earth element energy in the air. Xiaohua exerted the earth escape art and rushed underground. His speed was not much slower than when he used the wind escape art in the air. The nether blood threads emitted from the ghost cave were different from the nether wind from before. When the blood threads wrapped around Xiaohua's body, they quickly corroded his protective golden light, and his Taoist robe was already in tatters. However, when these threads of blood that ordinary cultivators feared like tigers landed on Xiaohua's body, they could only emit sizzling sounds. On Xiaohua's skin, strands of strange patterns appeared. These patterns flashed and disappeared, unable to invade his body. Something's not right. This doesn't seem to be a simple nether wind. Xiaohua had encountered the nether wind and nether blood sea in Netherworld and Million Meng Mountains, so he was not unfamiliar with these blood threads. When these blood threads landed on his body, he immediately felt something was wrong. These blood threads contain a deathly stillness, an aura that can kill all living things. This is the aura of death. No matter if it was the netherworld in the gate of the Tao, the hell in the mouth of the Buddhist sect, or even the netherworld in the mouth of Confucian cultivators, all of them were extremely mysterious. No one knew the details behind them, and the reason for this was the aura of death. No matter how high a cultivator's cultivation base was, They were all living things with vitality. They couldn't go deep into the nether world, which was filled with the aura of death, and couldn't use their divine abilities in the hell. Even the soul cultivators of Million Meng Mountains, who claimed to be the descendants of Hutu great god, didn't dare to touch the nether blood sea. If it's just the nether wind, it's fine. But if this aura of death rushes out, with the size of hidden immortal continent, I'm afraid it will kill countless living things. Xiao Hua was secretly worried in his heart as he moved underground. However, he immediately felt relieved. The netherworld chi that was spouted out from the 2 ghost caves didn't have any deathly chi. It wasn't that there wasn't any deathly chi inside, but it was extremely diluted by the boundless chi of heaven and earth on the hidden immortal continent. So much so that even with Xiao Hua's cultivation he didn't notice it. Although the death chi emitted from the ghost cave Yuwang, which was guarded by the Zhu family, was much more than the other ghost caves, it was nothing compared to the chi of heaven and earth. However, if it's so simple, Xiao Hua was once again puzzled. Why would the Zhu clan's ancestors lay down a restriction here, and even let the successive generations of the Zhu clan's descendants guard the ghost cave? Looking into the depths of the ghost cave, several thousand feet underground, there was a flying shuttle that was less than 100 feet in size. It was flashing with yellow clouds as it stopped at the bottom. About 1,000 feet below the flying shuttle, a thick layer of bloody mist was rolling violently. Loud sounds like a tsunami were emitted from within the mist. The range of this mist was extremely large, perhaps dozens of miles. Above the mist, there were countless armor inscriptions condensed into long strips that were piled up together. These long strips were filled with vast crystal threads. As the crystal threads flashed, there were indescribable visions. Some were the warnings of saints, some were the recitations of children, some were the images of immortal palaces, some were the images of mountains and rivers, and so on. Moreover, as the crystal threads flashed, each strip emitted an unparalleled will and aura of righteousness and perseverance. These auras and wills combined together to form a huge origin formation. This origin formation imprisoned the mist underground. What was special was that under the origin formation, there was a thin layer of Buddhist light. This Buddhist light was extremely obscure and was concealed by the clouds of the armor inscriptions. If one didn't have a Buddhist divine ability, it would be extremely difficult to detect. Before the layers of mist could come into contact with the long strips of the armor inscriptions, they were immediately melted by the Buddhist light. However, as the fog rolled more and more violently, the Buddha's light was almost drowned out. The blood-colored surface undulated up and down greatly, and its strength was also unparalleled. There were faintly visible gaps between the long strips that were originally composed of rules. Strands and strands of netherworld blood seeped out from these gaps and rushed into the ghost cave. Moreover, the netherworld blood was constantly corroding the long strips of the vast crystal threads. Every time the netherworld wind entered the long strips, the vast crystal threads would dim a bit. The vision inside was like a candle being blown out by the wind, suddenly extinguishing. Brother Zhu. Within the clouds of the flying shuttle, a slightly short Confucian scholar with a pale face asked in a low voice, This is the ghost cave that your Zhu family has been guarding for generations? Why is it different from what I thought? It's really too terrifying. In front of the Confucian scholar, the one controlling the flying shuttle with all his strength was naturally Zhu Xiang. The surface of his body was slightly overflowing with true qi, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Looking at his appearance, it seemed that he wanted to urge the flying shuttle to get closer to the Yuan array. Unfortunately, there was already too much netherworld wind rushing up, and the netherworld blood within it was violently corroding the outer layer of the flying shuttle. Moreover, the powerful force in the soil layer also prevented the flying shuttle from going any further. A trace of disappointment flashed in Zhu Xiang's eyes, and then he immediately withdrew his true qi. He turned to look at the Confucian scholar and nodded, Yes, what Brother Lu said is right. This is the ghost cave that I mentioned before. This is the end of the ghost cave. The Yuan array that you saw in the clear eyes technique was set up by my Zhu family's ancestors. But another slightly fat Confucian scholar wiped the sweat on his cheeks and somewhat puzzled said, "Brother Zhu, how come I only saw the yuan array and didn't see any ghosts?" Ghosts are otherworldly items. If we don't have a special clear eyes technique, we shouldn't be able to see them. The one who spoke was Yu Zhongquan, who was standing behind Zhu Xiang. His face became even paler, but his mature eyes were full of determination. "Brother Zhu, you're exaggerating." 2 feet behind the crowd, another Confucian scholar dressed in brocade clothes pressed his hands on the flying shuttle beside him. Streams of exquisite true qi were slowly sent from his body into the flying shuttle. This Confucian scholar's cultivation was obviously more powerful than Zhu Xiang and the others, and now he was still calm and unruffled as he said with a smile, "This is admittedly a huge yuan array, and now it's inexplicably floating up and down, but that doesn't mean this is a ghost cave. Moreover, from what I know, the Zhu family doesn't have the strength to set up such a huge yuan array. Brother Zhu's idea of reviving the Zhu family's reputation is commendable, but you can't use this gimmick to deceive the brothers who helped you." Zhu Xiang opened his mouth, wanting to explain something, but after a moment he smiled bitterly and said in a low voice, "This Zhu knows that you brothers won't believe me. In fact, even this Zhu didn't believe it when my father told me. But now, seeing such a magnificent yuan array, this Zhu has no choice but to believe it. Moreover, my father said that there were many dangers, and this Zhu has already sensed many of them. He, Brother Zhu, it's not that this little brother doesn't want to believe you." The Confucian scholar smiled and said, "Even if this yuan array was set up by your Zhu family's ancestors, what does it have to do with a ghost cave? Below the yuan array is the netherworld's yin wind, and now the yin wind is so strong that the yuan array is already unable to withstand it." Zhu Xiang almost couldn't suppress the impulse in his blood, and he couldn't suppress the instinctive fear in his heart. His teeth trembled slightly as he spoke in a low voice. "I believe you," Yu Zhongquan said solemnly, "not to mention the blood-colored yin wind below the yuan array, even the surroundings of the flying shuttle are blowing yin wind." "Brother you can see it?" The Confucian scholar surnamed Lu said in surprise, "You don't seem to have used the clear eyes technique at all. This one's eyes have been able to see otherworldly items since young." Yu Zhongquan replied indifferently, "That's why this one wants to be a wandering hero and sweep the world of ghosts." The tall Confucian scholar was also surprised, but he looked at Yu Zhongquan and asked Zhu Xiang, "Brother Zhu, you invited us to help you, but now that the flying shuttle can no longer get close to the yuan array, shouldn't you make a move?" Zhu Xiang gritted his teeth and nodded, "That's right, this Zhu is truly grateful to all of you brothers. If it weren't for all of you driving this flying shuttle with this Zhu wouldn't have been able to get so close to the yuan array, and this Zhu's idea of repairing the yuan array would never have been realized." Brother Zhu is too polite. A few Confucian scholars with lower cultivations in the distance laughed and said, "Uncle is too demanding of you, this is something we all know. If you can repair this yuan array today, Uncle Zhu will definitely have a whole new level of respect for you. This way, our efforts won't be in vain." Zhu Xiang's heart warmed, but immediately after, the strangeness of the yuan array made him unable to calm down. He knew in his heart that things weren't good, he couldn't help but sigh, but he still smiled and said, "You and I are friends who have gone through life and death together, otherwise this Zhu wouldn't have invited all of you here. This Zhu appreciates all of your kindness. If this Zhu is unable to repay all of you in this life, this Zhu hopes to get to know all of you again in the next life." "What are you talking about, Brother Zhu?" The Confucian scholar surnamed Lu who spoke before turned around and patted Zhu Xiang's shoulder, shouting, "Go and come back quickly. This little brother is still waiting for you to set up a banquet to celebrate. I'm still waiting for you to lead the entire Zhu clan to dominate the hidden Immortal continent 50 years later." That's right. The group of Confucian scholars who only had the cultivation of Confucian scholars smiled and said, their smiles were filled with warmth. Boom! At this moment, the originally shaking yuan array was suddenly lifted high up, several long strips broke out from the yuan array. The strips rushed into the ground and immediately burst open. After a low chanting sound was heard, the vast crystal threads turned into countless armor inscriptions, and these armor inscriptions attracted countless tiny pillars of vast qi. Unfortunately, the moment these vast chi pillars appeared, they were already blown away by the netherworld wind that came out from the gaps of the Yuan array. As for the flying shuttle that Zhu Xiang and the others were riding at this moment, it was violently shaking. The clouds outside the flying shuttle disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Although the Confucian scholars couldn't see the yin qi of the underworld, the bone-chilling cold made them feel that something was wrong. Chapter 3851. Not good. The tall Confucian cultivator's expression changed, and he hurriedly shouted, "Brother Zhu, hurry, my Earth shuttle can't hold on any longer, and there's no time to fix your formation. We have to return quickly." Zhu Xiang's eyes became even more resolute, and he shook his head. "I won't return until I fix this formation." "Zhu Xiang," the Confucian cultivator hurriedly shouted, "do you want to die? You're just a scholar, it's enough that you have filial piety. Moreover, as long as there's life, there's hope. While my Earth shuttle can still hold on, let's hurry back to the surface. Tomorrow or after we're fully prepared, it won't be too late to fix the formation." Zhu Xiang looked at the formation and saw another long piece being blown out. He narrowed his eyes and shook his head. "Brother Song, you're right. I didn't prepare well enough, and I don't know enough about this formation. But now that I'm here, I can feel that this is where my destiny lies. Brothers, I'm going out now. You wait? What are you talking about?" Brother Song said angrily, "We're brothers, how can we leave you here alone?" With that, Brother Song urged his true chi to change the direction of the shuttle, and the Confucian cultivators worked together to drive the shuttle out of the ground. However, an indescribable suction force was emitted from the origin formation. It was as if a large hand was tightly grabbing onto the flying shuttle. Everyone exerted all their strength, but the flying shuttle flew up an inch. It even fell a few feet towards the origin formation. Brother Song. Seeing this, Zhu Xiang smiled miserably and shouted, "Hurry and open the shuttle. As long as I fly out, the shuttle can be activated immediately." This Brother Song was hesitant. "There's no time." Seeing a few more pieces of vast crystal falling out of the formation and more netherworld wind blowing out, Zhu Xiang flew to the surface of the shuttle and said anxiously, "Brother Song, if you don't want your brothers to die with me, hurry up and send me out." "Alright." Brother Song clenches his teeth and opens the door of the shuttle a slit. Zhu Xiang jumped out of the shuttle without hesitation. Sure enough, as soon as Zhu Xiang flew out, the shuttle immediately moved and flew towards the ground. Zhu Xiang, on the other hand, had fallen into the layer of soil, and the suction force from the origin formation was holding him in place, preventing him from leaving. However, under the wind of the netherworld, the vital energy around his body was rapidly disappearing, and his entire body was blocked, preventing him from falling into the origin formation. It was as if the wind of the netherworld was preventing Zhu Xiang from falling into the origin formation. What should we do? At this point, Zhu Xiang was not afraid of death, but he did not want to die in vain. He would rather follow the warning in his heart and send his flesh and blood into the origin formation to die. "Let me help you." Just as Zhu Xiang was caught between a rock and a hard place, Yu Zhongquan's voice rang out. Above Zhu Xiang's head, there was a flash of sword light. Yu Zhongquan controlled the flying sword with great difficulty and arrived beside Zhu Xiang. He grabbed Zhu Xiang, and the brilliance of the sword not only blocked the chi of the netherworld, but also brought Zhu Xiang towards the origin formation. "Brother Yu!" Zhu Yan was shocked and hurriedly cried out, "You? How did you get out of the shuttle?" "Brother Zhu," Yu Zhongquan said faintly, "others don't know the danger inside, but in my eyes, I can see it clearly. Now that the yin wind in the netherworld is raging, the blood chi in the netherworld has rushed out of the origin formation. If Brother Zhu does not repair the origin formation, it will definitely cause the yin chi to completely leak out of the ghost cave. Although my cultivation is shallow and I can't be a real ranger, I can't do anything that can really enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. But if I want to accompany Brother Zhu to die, I can still do it. You don't understand." At this point, Zhu Xiang did not know how to explain to Yu Zhongquan. Whoosh! the chi of the netherworld suddenly fell and deeply caved in. Then, it suddenly beat like a blood-red heart. Buzz. With a loud sound, the origin formation in the vicinity of dozens of miles was pushed up high. Dozens of vast crystals that formed the origin formation were sent flying. At the same time, dozens of hurricanes blew out from the gaps, roaring and blowing towards Zhuxiang and Yuzhongquan. Boom! Just as the origin formation was thrown high, Zhuxiang's body fell into the origin formation like a meteor. The huge impact tore Yuzhongquan's sword light into pieces. CSI. Countless small sounds came from Yuzhongquan's body. The netherworld wind instantly blew into Yuzhongquan's sword light. Not only did it corrode his clothes, it also destroyed the true chi protecting his body. The netherworld wind spiraled and rushed into his body. Zhu Xiang's body had not yet fallen into the origin formation when a very abrupt inscription armor flashed with a dim blood-red light and rushed out from the inner layer of the origin formation. The inscription armor was a faint human figure. This human figure was like a whirlpool that instantly passed through Zhu Xiang's body. Just as the human figure came out of Zhu Xiang's body, Zhu Xiang's face suddenly turned pale, but the human figure was full of blood. The blood essence in Zhu Xiang's body was actually sucked out by the inscription armor. Ta! The blood-red human figure let out a sigh like a Buddha, and the origin formation also flashed with a bright light following the sigh of the human figure. Woo! In the void, countless noble chi pillars rushed into the human figure. In a moment, the human figure was like a blood-red child body that suddenly expanded. Sacrifice my blood essence, sacrifice my soul, with my life I seal your ghost cave. The child body's aged voice let out an extremely obscure inscription. It rushed into the origin formation with countless noble chi. The entire origin formation's blood-red multicolored light mixed with wisps of clouds flowed between the noble crystals at an extremely fast speed. The places that were broken by the netherworld chi were repaired at an extremely fast speed. Even the origin formation that was raised high fiercely shrank back, forcefully suppressing the netherworld chi. Everything was developing according to Zhu Xiang's plan. However, the netherworld wind was only suppressed for a few breaths, and the origin formation was once again expanded by an even stronger counterattack. The child body that had not yet merged with the origin formation was immediately shattered by the impact. At the same time, more noble crystals broke away from the origin formation, and even more netherworld chi whistled and blew. Zhu Xiang's body that had lost his blood essence quickly withered, and in a few breaths of time, a small part of his body was blown away by the netherworld wind. As for Yu Zhongquan, the true chi around his body was invaded by the netherworld wind, and in a moment his body was also riddled with holes. It was obvious that he would not survive. On top of the netherworld wind, the flying shuttle that seemed to have escaped from danger was caught up by the netherworld wind after flying for only a few hundred feet. Under the fierce wind, the flying shuttle seemed to be swung around by a big hand. Not only was its brilliance dim, but the group of Confucian scholars inside was also spinning around, unable to support themselves. Everyone's face was pale, and their hearts were filled with horror. Alas! A voice that was as old as the previous huge body came from the flying shuttle. This old man still came one step too late. The group of Confucian scholars who had already given up all hope opened their eyes. Within the clear eyes technique, the tall and thin Xiaohua fell from the sky. The netherworld wind that could extinguish all life blew against his bronze skin. Aside from the traces of golden light from before, it could not harm him at all. Senior, save me. Inside the flying shuttle, the group of cultivators' true chi had long been exhausted. They shouted loudly, but they did not know if Xiaohua could hear them. Xiaohua held the mountain river seal in his hand, and his figure flew past the flying shuttle. A suction force rushed out of the mountain river seal and covered the entire flying shuttle. Boom! The entire flying shuttle was sucked into the mountain river seal. Immediately after, Xiaohua's gaze swept over Yu Zhongquan, and after a little investigation, he knew that although he was unconscious, his life was not in danger. His mind swept his body into the Kunlun immortal realm in the space, and handed him over to Chang Yuan to take care of. Daoist Xiao. Zhu Xiang was already on the verge of death, but when he saw Xiao Hua suddenly appear, his eyes unexpectedly lit up, and he opened his mouth to call out, "Senior, why did you also come?" "Don't worry." Xiao Hua waved his hand, and a few feet to the left of Zhu Xiang instantly produced a faint brilliance. This brilliance firmly protected him, but this layer of faint brilliance flickered rapidly in the netherworld wind. Obviously, this layer of faint brilliance could not last for too long. "This Xiao will save you. If you have anything to say, let's talk outside." While speaking, Xiao Hua's mind wrapped around Zhu Xiang, wanting to take him into the space. Contrary to Xiao Hua's expectations, his mind that could take metal and wood magnetism into the space was actually unable to move Zhu Xiang. Damn it! Xiao Hua understood that this was probably the effect of the origin formation below him. "No need to waste your magic power, Daoist Xiao." Zhu Xiang said in a low voice. "This little one's blood essence has been sucked away by the origin formation. Even if Daoist Xiao Hua saves this little one will not be able to live. Daoist Xiao Hua only needs to bring some words to my father. This little one will be endlessly grateful." Alright. Xiao Hua looked at Zhu Xiang. His body had already lost more than half. He knew that even if he took him away, he would most likely not be able to save him. Instead, Zhu Cheng would be sad to see his son's miserable state, so he dismissed the idea of taking Zhu Xiang away. "I'll have to trouble Daoist Xiao Hua to tell my father. This time this little one has disappointed him again." Zhu Xiang said weakly, "This little one originally wanted to help my father strengthen this seal, but I didn't expect that the yin qi of the underworld would be so strong tonight. Not only did this little one fail to strengthen the seal, I even threw away my life here. If Daoist Xiao Hua did not come, I'm afraid that even the 10 or so Confucian cultivator friends that this little one invited would have lost their lives in the ghost cave. This little one is really useless." "No!" Right at this moment, a sorrowful and indignant voice came from behind Xiao Hua. Zhu Cheng stepped on a scroll and hurriedly landed. "Xiang, father was not disappointed this time." "Father." Zhu Xiang's bloodless face blushed, and he said in a low voice, "Really? Father? Father hasn't said these words to this boy for a long time already. I remember that the last time was already 20 years ago, right? It was when this boy was reciting the Confucius scripture in the academy." At this point, Zhu Xiang suddenly came to a realization and said in alarm, "Father, this origin formation is too strange. You must not go near it. Otherwise, it will be extremely dangerous." Xiang. Seeing that his son still remembered to warn him before his death, Zhu Chen could not help but cry. The grief in his heart was like a knife cutting through his heart. Chapter 3852. Xiao Hua waved his hand and used his nascent soul hand to firmly control Zhu Cheng and the book under his body, resisting the powerful suction force of the origin formation. "Father, boy is unworthy. I have disappointed you too much in this life." Zhu Xiang's mind was somewhat fuzzy. Looking at the distant Zhu Cheng, he said, "Boy has indeed worked very hard, but he still couldn't reach father's expectations. Boy himself is also very discouraged. However, father, until now Boy finally understood, Boy is not the kind of person who wants to be a hero. Boy's character is weak, Boy doesn't know how to speak, Boy is indecisive. But, father, not everyone in this world can be a hero. If everyone wants to be a hero, who will applaud heroes? Boy is to applaud people. Father, you often say that man can conquer the heavens, everything can be cultivated, but Boy in this kind of cultivation is very unsatisfactory. Boy doesn't want to do those things that go against the nature of Boy." Xiang. Zhu Cheng never thought that his son's heart would be so bitter. For a moment he didn't know what to say. "Boy is gone. Father, you don't have to worry about Boy anymore. Little brother Zheng is still young. Boy also can't see whether he is similar to Boy, but father, if he is also like Boy, please don't force him. After all, it is better to live more happily in this world." Saying this, the spirit in Zhu Xiang's eyes gradually faded, and a shadow slowly emerged. Although Xiaohua imprisoned him, the death qi in the netherworld wind still captured Zhu Xiang's soul. Zhu Qing bit his lips, blood flowed out from his teeth. He tried his best to urge his true qi to rush out of Xiaohua's nascent soul hand. Zhu Qing, do you also want to throw away your life? Xiaohua laughed coldly and asked. With this Xiao's cultivation, I've just resisted the suction force of this origin formation. So long as you struggle free from this Xiao's technique, you'll definitely suffer the same fate as Zhu Xiang. Even if I die. I also want to accompany Xiang, Zhu Qing said without hesitation. Buzz buzz. A powerful impact sound came from below the origin formation. The origin formation that the Zhu clan had been guarding for an unknown period of time could no longer hold on. When the Buddha's light and the clouds disappeared, hundreds of gaps appeared in the origin formation in an instant. Within dozens of miles, streams of netherworld qi rushed out from these gaps and formed a huge netherworld blood pillar that was ready to shoot out of the ghost cave. Seeing Zhu Xiang's soul was about to fall into the netherworld wind, Xiaohua's heart moved. He took the willow branch in his hand and waved it towards the shadow. Zhu Xiang's, the willow, and Zhu Xiang's soul fell into the willow. Willow's soul also fell into the willow. Willow's soul fell into the willow. Willow's soul also fells. Soul fells. Hua. When Xiaohua put the willow branch into his space, Zhu Xiang's soul also entered the spaces inside. As for his body, Xiaohua withdrew his spiritual power and immediately turned into ashes. Even if Xiaohua wanted to take it away, he couldn't. Zhu Qing couldn't see Zhu Xiang's soul. He didn't know that Zhu Xiang's soul had already fallen into Xiaohua's spaces inside, but father and son were connected. When Zhu Xiang's soul was destroyed, Zhu Qing felt a sharp pain in his heart. He shouted loudly. Xiaohua didn't wait for him to finish shouting. His Yuanying hand grabbed him. He looked back at the Buddhist light inside the origin formation and shouted, "Go!" As Xiaohua flew out with the soulless Zhu Qing, the Yuan formation inside the Yuan ghost cave had completely collapsed. Boundless netherworld qi mixed with death qi rushed out of the ghost cave just like the netherworld blood pillar that Xiaohua had seen before and pierced straight into the night sky. This was already the third blood pillar that had appeared. Looking at the three netherworld qi pillars around him, Xiaohua's eyes became solemn. He brought Zhu Qing, who had been silent all this time, back to the Zhu family village. After waiting for a moment, he asked, "Zhu Qing, I'm very sorry about Zhu Xiang's matter. No need." Zhu Qing waved his hand and said, "This is the fate of my Zhu family's descendants. Xiang died in the ghost cave. He died a worthy death. His death is heavier than a mountain peak. And it's good that you understand." Xiaohua nodded. He pointed at the three netherworld qi pillars and said, "However, today's crisis seems to have just begun. As for what the real crisis is, it seems like you also don't know. I hope that you and I can work together to stop this crisis and save a few more lives. We can't let Zhu Xiang die in vain in the ghost cave." "Yes, this one understands." Zhu Qing took a deep breath. He nodded and said, "This one will definitely turn grief into strength and help Taoist Xiao to bring grace to the Phoenix soaring kingdom." Xiaohua nodded and immediately asked, "Good, you should explain the Zhu family's matter clearly. How many ghost caves are there in the Phoenix soaring kingdom?" Zhu Qing looked at the Zhu family manor under his feet and said, "Good to let benefactor know. Although my Zhu family has always been guarding this ghost cave Yuang, even this one's 3 generations of ancestors did not encounter any special abnormalities. That ghost cave Yuang is sealed by the blood essence of the 3 generations of Zhu family patriarchs. Every year during the ghost festival, there is only yin qi spewing out, covering the surrounding 100 li. Even if there is an otherworldly item moving at night within the yin qi, when the rooster crows, all the yin qi and otherworldly items will disappear. It is no different from the legends of the secular world. Therefore, my Zhu family only knows that there is this ghost cave Yuang in Wuyuan County. We don't know if there are other ghost caves in Wuyuan County. We also don't know if there are other ghost caves in Jingyue County and Fanchang County. As for how many ghost caves there are in the Phoenix Soaring Kingdom, I'm afraid that only the 18 kings of hell know. So, you also don't know what kind of calamities there are in the ghost caves. Xiao Hua slightly frowned. But what is the 10,000-year calamity you mentioned? I'll let benefactor know. Zhu Cheng hurriedly explained. When I was a child, I went to Fancheng County to study. There was a legend about the ghost prison among the old people there. They said that 10,000 years ago, the Phoenix Soaring Kingdom was a Confucian empire that was many times more powerful than the Phoenix Soaring Kingdom. This Confucian empire was rich and the people were strong. Get to the point. Xiao Hua somewhat anxiously interrupted Zhu Cheng's story. Yes, benefactor. Zhu Cheng realized that he had lost his composure and said, according to the villagers, this is also the ghost festival. For some unknown reason, all the living creatures on this land have turned into ghosts. The land is sealed by Yin energy, and there is no trace of life. Otherworldly items are wreaking havoc on the land, just like the legendary ghost prison. Later, the immortals of the Immortal Palace took action and drew the destiny of the 9 regions to exterminate the ghosts in this ghost prison. No wonder the Confucian cultivators tolerated the Taoist cultivators in the Phoenix Soaring Kingdom. Xiao Hua sneered. It turned out that there was such a secret. Fellow Taoist Jew, you said, the destiny of the 9 regions? Could it be that this ghost cave is related to the 9 regions cauldrons that suppress the destiny of the 9 regions? Speaking of destiny, Xiao Hua couldn't help but think of the 9 regions cauldrons and the 6 cauldrons in his space. His heart thumped, thinking that this was bad. Of course. Zhu Cheng nodded affirmatively. The 9 cauldrons of our Confucian cultivators stabilize the 9 regions. Not only does it stabilize the destiny of the Confucian cultivators, but it also focuses on the human aura and stabilizes the vitality. The 9 cauldrons were originally one body, protecting the 9 regions. If there was the protection of the 9 cauldrons, this ghost cave wouldn't be so powerful, and the powerful ghosts inside the ghost cave wouldn't be able to rush out. Hiss. Xiao Hua sucked in a mouthful of cold air for the 3rd time tonight. He didn't expect that he would actually become the culprit of this disaster. You mean? Xiao Hua was still unwilling and said in a low voice, the 9 cauldrons are one body. As long as one of them is taken, the 9 cauldrons won't be able to protect the 9 regions? Of course. Zhu Cheng nodded. The location of the 9 cauldrons is the biggest secret of the Confucian cultivators. No one knows about it. Not to mention taking one of the 9 cauldrons, even if one of them is moved, the entire 9 cauldrons Great Formation will be completely destroyed. Even if you restore the 9 cauldrons, the Great Formation won't be able to be formed. Phew. Hearing Zhu Cheng's words, Xiao Hua's heart immediately relaxed, and he let out a long breath. It seems that I'm not the instigator, and I'm not helping the evildoer. However, because of this, Xiao Hua suddenly had doubts. Woo! The 4th strange sound came from a different direction from the other 3, but it was somewhat similar to the direction of the ghost cave. Zhu Cheng bit his lips and said, This is my Wuxia County. Fellow Immortal Zhu, I'll ask you one more thing. Xiao Hua secretly calculated in his heart and asked again. Benefactor, please speak. Is the 9 cauldrons so important that all the Confucian cultivators know about it? No. Zhu Cheng shook his head. This was passed down by my Zhu family's ancestors. Just like the heavenly book's true explanation, it's not known to others. Even if someone knows about it, there won't be too many. Most people only know that the 9 cauldrons are legendary objects, symbols of royal power. No wonder. Xiao Hua suddenly understood. It seems that even if Kong Hongwu is a Confucian cultivator, he might not know about the importance of the 9 cauldrons. Then, the Western Paradise and the 1,000 Demons Sacred Realm don't have the 9 cauldrons to suppress them, right? How do they deal with their ghost caves? Xiao Hua asked again. Zhu Cheng smiled bitterly. Benefactor, what you're thinking is something I've never thought about. However, Buddhism has always been the nemesis of ghosts, and they also have the 6 paths of reincarnation secret technique. The Western Paradise must have a Buddhist divine ability to suppress the ghost caves, right? And in the 1,000 Demons Sacred Realm, what's the difference between those demons and ghosts? Even ghosts are afraid of demons, right? Woo! The fifth strange sound came from a different direction from the other four. Zhu Cheng looked at the direction of the fifth sound and said in a low voice, "This is the direction of Fancheng County. It seems the ghost caves should be concentrated in Wuyuan County, Jingyue County, and Fancheng County." Xiao Hua nodded and looked at the Zhu family village below him, saying, "The Zhu family village seems to be safe. Fellow Immortal Zhu, can you accompany me to these ghost caves?" "Of course." Zhu Cheng nodded. "This is the clan law left behind by my ancestors. It's also the mission engraved in the bones of my Zhu family's people. I'm duty-bound. Since Jean can make such a decision, why can't I?" Chapter 3853. Okay. Xiao Hua lifted Zhu Cheng and said, "As long as this Xiao is fine, this Xiao will guarantee your safety. As for Zhu Xiang, Sai, this Xiao can't say anything right now. Let's go." While speaking, Xiao Hua brought Zhu Cheng and turned into a rainbow as they descended towards the first ghost cave. The grief in Zhu Cheng's heart hadn't subsided by much. He didn't care about Xiao Hua's words and only took them as a form of consolation. As Xiao Hua's rainbow figure flew, the scarlet blood appeared on his lips again. When they were still far away from the ghost cave, a foul smell mixed with a faint smell of blood assailed their nostrils. Through his heaven's eye, he saw that the netherworld style was sticky. Not only did it fill the night sky, it also fell on the mountain ridge, trees, and rivers. The netherworld's blood on the ground was naturally different from the ones in the air. It formed the strange pattern that Xiao Hua saw during the day. But how come there are other cultivators? Xiao Hua's heaven's eye swept past the netherworld's blood and then fell on the mountain ridge. An old man who looked like a farmer was standing on top of it. His gaze fell on the netherworld's energy pillar. Of course, Xiao Hua bringing Zhu Cheng closer naturally alarmed the old man. The old man's eyes flickered with faint yellow clouds as he turned his head. "Old man Zhu?" The old man was slightly surprised when he saw Zhu Cheng. He then bowed toward Xiao Hua and said, "I wonder who this fellow immortal is. This humble one is Xiao Hua from the Dao sect." Xiao Hua brought Zhu Cheng and returned the greeting. "A cultivator from the Dao sect?" The old man frowned. He clearly hadn't heard of Xiao Hua's name. "Who are you?" Looking at the farmer, Zhu Cheng calmed himself down and asked with a strange expression, "This old man seems to have never seen fellow immortal before." The farmer faintly smiled and said, "The Zhu family is a famous scholarly family in my Fengxiang country. Old man Zhu's name is not only known in Wuyuan County, but also in Jingyue County where this old man lives." Xiao Hua's heart moved. He stared at the old man and asked, "Could it be that fellow immortal is also a member of a family? Are you guarding the ghost cave like the Zhu family?" "This humble one is Sun Qing. Greetings fellow immortal Zhu and fellow immortal Xiao." When the old man heard Xiao Hua's words, his eyes lit up and he bowed again. "Sun Qing? Sun Zi?" Zhu Cheng came to a sudden realization. He stared at the old man and exclaimed, "Could fellow immortal be the descendant of the literary sage Sun Zi? Alas, isn't the Zhu clan also the descendant of Saint Zhuxi?" Sun Qing sighed. "Today, this old man finally understands why your Zhu clan declined. It looks just like my Sun family." "Yeah." Zhu Qing couldn't help but sigh. In ancient times, the Sun family was a first-rate aristocratic family. Now, it's still inferior to my Zhu family. I thought that the Sun family's disciples were long gone. Actually, it's about time." Sun Qing sighed. He looked at the ghost cave and said sadly, "Perhaps this will be the last time the Sun family will use their flesh, blood, and essence to seal a ghost cave." "Your Sun clan has a curse as well?" Zhu Qing raised his brows and asked, "Does fellow immortal Sun have any descendants?" "Isn't that obvious? What your Zhu clan has, my Sun clan naturally has as well." Sun Qing nodded. "I can't compare to old Master Zhu. Although I have a son, he can't compare to young Master Zhu. Let's not talk about this anymore." Hearing Sun Qing mention Zhu Xiang, Zhu Cheng's heart ached. He wanted to change his words, but he still said, "Don't mention that unfilial son. He's too weak. He can't be the successor of my Zhu family." However, as soon as Zhu Qing finished speaking, his heart ached as if it was bleeding. Successor? Old Master Zhu, you should be content. It's already good that you have a successor. Sun Qing grinned and said, not only did my Sun clan decline long ago, but I'm afraid that even our bloodline is about to be cut off. Alas, fellow immortal Sun, you don't know. Xiaohua looked at Zhu Qing. He knew that it was difficult for this elder, who expected better from him, to say what was in his heart. Thus, he sighed and said, Old Master Zhu's son, Zhu Xiang, died in the ghost cave just now in order to seal the ghost cave. Sun Qing's expression changed. He bowed deeply to Zhu Qing and said solemnly, on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of people in Jianghu County, I thank the Zhu clan for sacrificing themselves for us. I'm ashamed. Zhu Qing hurriedly helped him up and said softly, This is the responsibility of our aristocratic families. It's our responsibility. It's also Ma Er's responsibility. Woo! At this moment, the sixth strange sound was heard. The direction was different from the other five. This is the direction of Fancheng County. Sun Qing hurriedly raised his head and looked into the distance. He said in a low voice, It seems that Fancheng County also has a declining aristocratic family like the Zhu and Sun clan. Confucian cultivators have hidden immortals for tens of thousands of years. How many aristocratic families have become drifting duckweeds? Zhu Qing sighed. Let's go. Xiaohua rolled up his sleeves and said, You all follow this Xiao to see which aristocratic family is the third one. Sun Qing wanted to decline, but under the influence of Xiaohua's magic, he couldn't even move. Unconsciously, Sun Qing looked at Xiaohua's young face in surprise. After which, he furrowed his brows, thinking about something. Xiaohua was like a rainbow piercing through the moon. The netherworld's blood threads that filled the sky didn't give him any hindrance. In just a moment he arrived in the sky above Fancheng County. It was already late at night. Not to mention that it was a year of famine. Everyone was lying on the ground and holding their stomach as they waited for the sun to come. Even if it was a rich year, on the night of the Ghost Festival, who would dare to go out into the wild? However, in the jungle dozens of li away from Fancheng County, Xiaohua saw a slightly short but extremely fat middle-aged man with a butcher knife in his hand. He slowly pushed aside the thorns on the ground and walked up to the distant mountain ridge. Looking at the fat man's actions, it was really clumsy and difficult. The night is long, the moon is bright, the jungle is deep, the roots are continuous. Are you chopping firewood? Xiaohua's figure landed on the ridge in front of the man's head. He lowered his head and asked, Ah! The man obviously didn't feel Xiaohua's arrival. He was shocked and the butcher knife in his hand almost fell to the ground. Fatty Zeng? Zhu Qing obviously knew this person. Seeing this familiar figure, he couldn't help but shout, How could it be you? Old man Zhu? You? How did you come here? Fatty Zeng heard Zhu Qing's voice and felt relieved. He lowered his head to look for the butcher knife and shouted loudly. He then climbed up the ridge with difficulty. However, the fat on the fat man's body trembled and his steps were difficult. He obviously didn't have any cultivation. Xiaohua raised his hand and beckoned, and the fatty was caught up in the air. The fatty's appearance of baring his fangs and brandishing his claws in midair really made people laugh. Little Zeng greets Immortal Senior. As soon as Fatty Zeng landed on the ground, he immediately bowed to Xiaohua. On his fat face, two small eyes shone with admiration. You are a descendant of the Zeng family? Sun Qing looked at the rather unscrupulous fat man and asked in disbelief, The Zeng family of the ancient first-class scholarly family? Zeng's face flushed red. He bowed and said, Little Zeng is indeed a descendant of the Zeng family. Senior, may I know who, alas? Without waiting for Sun Qing to speak, Zhu Qing sighed and said, Zeng Zi of the Zeng family is also a scholarly sage. The Zeng family is also a first-class scholarly family. But now, Zeng Zeng of the Zeng family is actually reduced to a butcher. Lamentable, lamentable. Yes, Master Zhu. Although the Zhu family was already in decline, in the eyes of the secular world, it was still a big family in Wuyuan County. Zeng was a butcher who slaughtered pigs. In the past, he often sent pork to the Zhu family village. Everyone was in awe of Zhu Cheng. Xiao Hua, however, had a smile on his face. He pointed at Zeng and said, "Fellow immortal Zhu, fellow immortal Sun, you were wrong. Regardless of whether he was a butcher or not, regardless of whether he has scholarly cultivation, as long as he can come to the side of the ghost cave today, his blood is burning hot. He is a brave man. He is not inferior to any scholarly cultivator on the hidden immortal continent. Righteous people are all butchers, unfaithful people are mostly scholars. That's probably the case." "That's right." Sun Qing was the first to wake up. He hurriedly bowed and said to Zeng, "This old man was wrong. Please forgive me, fellow immortal Zeng." "Exactly. Since fellow immortal Zeng came here, you are naturally determined to die, even more so than this old man." At this point, Zhu Qing didn't know whether he was sad or ashamed. He couldn't continue and bowed deeply. Zeng was greatly alarmed. He hurriedly helped the two people up and said with a bitter smile, "This little one, how can this little one be as noble as this immortal elder said? This little one is just following the ancestors' instructions and doing my best to guard the ghost cave. But, after tonight, my Zeng family won't have the chance to guard the ghost cave anymore." "Alas, that's right. The dog is still young and doesn't know anything." "How could he know that you are going to die tonight?" Zhu Qing sighed. "Woo." The seventh strange sound came from a different direction from the other six. Xiao Hua hurriedly looked at Zhu Qing. Zhu Qing understood what Xiao Hua was thinking. He shook his head and said, "This little one still doesn't know about this ghost cave." "Master Zhu," Zeng said somewhat embarrassedly, "this little one didn't know that Master was also the guardian of the ghost cave. This little one thought that only this little one was. With so much Yin energy erupting tonight, I wonder, how many ghost caves have opened?" "There are already 7. Zhu Qing looked at the dense netherworld wind around them and said in a low voice, "This many?" Zeng turned pale with fright. This little one's ancestor only said that there was 1. With so many ghost caves, we don't have enough people. Xiao Hua's heart sank. He naturally understood that the number of people Zeng was talking about was the number of people who entered the ghost cave. Presumably, Zeng, who didn't have any cultivation, came here to prepare to jump into the ghost cave just like his ancestor. However, from Zhu Xiang's death, he could see that the Yin energy erupting from the ghost cave today was different from before. Just using the blood essence of a cultivator family's disciple to seal the ghost cave was no longer enough. They had to figure out the cause of the ghost cave's eruption and the harm it would cause to the millions of villagers in the 3 towns. Zhu Qing looked into the distance with worry and said in a low voice, "Could it be that the ghost cave is really coming out again? How can this be stopped?" Chapter 3854. Master Zhu is from a rich family. There must be treasures left behind in the ancestral hall. Zeng Zian said with envy, "If Master Zhu has treasures, he can definitely guard the ghost cave." "Alas." Zhu Qing waved his hand and said, "My Zhu family's ancestral hall has long been ruined. Where would there be treasures?" Zhu Cheng's words were like a sudden clap of thunder, immediately stunning Xiao Hua. The bone that Zhu Qing gave him clearly wrote, "Ancestral Hall Wooden Statue Xiantian Qi, Family History Silk Cloth Descendants." If there was no ancestral hall, where would there be a wooden statue? Where would there be a family history? Xiao Hua came to the Zhu family. Of course he wanted to see what the wooden statue was and what the family history was, but he didn't have the chance, or he was embarrassed to ask. But he didn't expect that Zhu family would simply lose their ancestral hall. Zhu family doesn't have an ancestral hall? When did this happen? Xiao Hua was still a bit unwilling and asked hurriedly. "This one doesn't know." Zhu Qing shook his head and said, "This one only vaguely heard about the ancestral hall from my father, but I've never seen it." "What about Zeng family and Sun family?" Xiao Hua felt something was wrong and turned to look at Zeng Zian and Sun Qing. As expected, the two shook their heads and answered in unison, "Our families are ruined. Where would there be ancestral halls?" At this moment, The eighth strange sound came from a different direction from the other 7. There are already 8 ghost caves. Xiaohua could only withdraw his doubts and squint his eyes to look at the 7 pillars of air in the distance. The last one that appeared was still not fully formed, but the first one that appeared already looked like a blood pillar. The ghost cave that this one is guarding hasn't erupted yet. Sun Qing said, "Fellow Immortal Xiao, this one." Before Sun Qing could finish speaking, the 9th strange sound rang out, instantly interrupting Sun Qing's words. Sun Qing's expression changed greatly as he said in shock, This strange sound is coming from the Nether Ghost Cave." Then what about the small one? Xingxian also panicked and asked hurriedly. "There are already 3 ghost caves in Fancheng County." Zhu Qing said and pointed at the 3 places in the distance and asked, "Is there one that your Zeng family is guarding?" Xingxian looked in that direction and said in a low voice, "Yes." Done. Xiaohua looked at the 3 of them and comforted them. "Now that there are 9 ghost caves, each of you can only seal one. Even if the 3 of you die in the ghost caves, I'm afraid you won't be able to seal all 9 ghost caves. Once upon a time, these were some medicinal pills. Take them back and sleep." If he woke up tomorrow and Fancheng County was still around, he would let his family consume this pill. Since you and Zhu Cheng are already acquainted with each other, you can support each other in the future. But he had wanted to say something. Xiaohua completely ignored him. He also took out a jade bottle and handed it to Sun Qing, saying, "Old Master Sun, I'll leave this to you as well. I don't want to say the same thing a second time. Take Tsingqian and leave first." "Alright." Sun Qing knew that he had lost his usefulness, and it was useless for him to stay here. He nodded and said, "I will obey Taoist Master Zhao's instructions." It's just that Sun Qing didn't accept Xiaohua's medicinal pills. He had the same personality as his ancestor, Sun Zizhen. "Hee, fellow Immortal Sun, this is a pill to break the curse," Zhu Qing reminded. "Ah." Sun Qing was startled at first, but then he shook his head. "I don't need this pill anymore." "Your Sun family's curse has been broken?" Zhu Qing was somewhat puzzled. Sun Qing thought for a moment and said, "My son was born slow-witted. Not to mention studying and cultivating, even living like an ordinary person is difficult. It doesn't matter if there is a curse or not." "Hee, so that's how it is." Xiaohua thought for a moment, then took out a small jade bottle and handed it to Sun Qing, saying, "This is a medicinal liquid refined by spiritual wisdom derivation. Its effect is better than Spirit Awakening Pill. It's called Spirit Awakening Liquid. This thing must be useful for your son. Take it." "This?" Sun Qing looked at the jade bottle, unable to react for a moment. Zhu Cheng hurriedly grabbed it and handed it to Sun Qing, saying, "Quickly take it. Taoist Master Zhao's magic power is boundless. These pills are rare in the world." "Thank you, Taoist Master." Sun Qing's hands were trembling as he hurriedly stuffed the jade bottle into his clothes. "Let's go, fellow Taoist Zhu. Take me to see if there are any other ghost caves other than these 9. Xiaohua didn't pay attention to Sun Qing's thanks. With a wave of his hand, he brought Zhu Cheng and flew towards the middle of 2 ghost caves in the distance. The 9 ghost caves were spread over 3 towns. As long as one looked at the arrangement, they could tell that there should be 3 ghost caves in each of the 3 towns. A total of 9 ghost caves formed the power of 9 stars. Xiaohua flew into the air. Using his heaven's eye, he saw that the entire night sky was covered in blood threads. The blood threads rolled and formed a blood mist that drifted in all directions. It was as if this 1,000-li range was another ghost cave. "Damn it!" Xiaohua cursed in a low voice. "This is the hidden immortal continent of Confucian cultivators. There is no reason. Why do you want me to do this? Where did the experts of the so-called immortal palaces and the so-called cultivation families go? Ghost caves appear, heaven's secrets are in chaos, heaven's secrets are in chaos, heaven and earth are upside down, immortals and mortals are falling." Zhu Cheng said in a low voice, "This is the sign of great chaos in the hidden immortal continent. Since my Wuyuan County is like this, other places might not be that strong. Taoist Master Xiao, Don't expect other Confucian cultivators to come. What about the land? Xiao Hua was shocked. He immediately thought of the land of the immortal palaces that he encountered near the Black Wind Mountain. These lands are the eyes and ears of the immortal palaces. Presumably, this Wuyuan County? Unfortunately, thinking of this, Xiao Hua's heart turned cold. That land said clearly that the immortal palaces controlled the overall situation of the hidden immortal continent. It was impossible for them to control such minute details. The Black Wind Mountain was only because of Xiao Hua that the Hall of Light sent down an immortal order to the nearest land to investigate. And this Wuyuan County, even the Fengxiang country, had long declined. Which land would stay here? It's not time yet, right? Xiao Hua raised his head and looked at the bright blood moon. He suddenly thought of the blood moon in the Meng Mountains. Ziming's face inexplicably appeared. Soon, hearing Xiao Hua's question, Zhu Cheng was slightly stunned at first, but soon understood. He squinted his eyes and looked at the bright moon in the sky. Sure enough, as soon as Zhu Cheng's voice fell, the moonlight of the blood-colored full moon suddenly trembled, and the brilliance was exceptionally bright. Xiao Hua's body also suddenly expanded with a hu sound. The moonlight above the blood-colored full moon was 3 times larger than usual, and it scattered towards the ground. Xiao Hua's demon body immediately sensed it. Xiao Hua was somewhat puzzled. After all, he was also in the hidden immortal continent on the 15th of July every year. He had never seen such a phenomenon before. Puff! 9 abnormally clear sounds came from the 9 blood pillars. Immediately, the entire night sky suddenly turned cold. Within the blood pillars, countless ghostly wails and howls faintly came out. 100 ghosts parade. At this time, Zhu Cheng was already scared out of his wits. He said calmly, in the past, it would happen on the 15th of July every year. But tonight's momentum seems to be several hundred times bigger. It's better to call it the 1,000 Ghosts Parade. Swoosh! At this time, the bright moonlight suddenly weakened a bit. The entire blood-red night sky became even colder. Zhu Cheng didn't raise his head and explained, every time the 100 Ghosts parade, the moon star will have a phenomenon. Those dark clouds will cover the full moon, and even rain will fall from the sky. Xiao Hua also didn't pay attention to the astronomical phenomenon. He only watched as the netherworld energy within 1,000 li began to boil. The 9 blood pillars sent out strange fluctuations, completely stirring up the netherworld energy. The fluctuations were sometimes high and sometimes low, like different tides colliding with each other. A moment later, Xiao Hua asked again, this scattered netherworld energy will have a great impact on the villagers of the 3 towns, right? Alas. Zhu Cheng nodded. If it's a good year, these millions of secular people will be full of vitality. Their yang energy will be flourishing, and the netherworld energy won't be able to touch them. But right now, it's a disaster year. 90% of the millions of villagers are on the verge of death. They are only 1 step away from starving ghosts. Moreover, tonight's yin energy is 9 times more than in previous years. Among these 90% villagers, 50% to 70% will be corroded by the yin energy. After tonight, even if they are still alive, I'm afraid they will be no different from the living dead. So many? Xiao Hua was shocked. Isn't there more than 700,000 people? It can only be more than this, not less. Zhu Cheng smiled bitterly. Actually, even without tonight's 1,000 Ghosts Parade, without benefactors' food in a few days, the number of people who will starve to death will also be this many. Xiao Hua shouted resolutely, if this Xiao wasn't here, then it would be fine. But since this Xiao is here, I definitely can't let 700,000 people die for no reason. But, Zhu Cheng also said, this netherworld energy. Before Zhu Cheng finished speaking, the entire night sky became a few degrees colder. The moonlight suddenly decreased by more than 30%. That's not right. Xiao Hua's heart moved and he hurriedly raised his head. Because even if the blood moon was blocked by the clouds, his monster body could still absorb the power of the moon and stars from the moon. It was impossible for it to decrease because of this. At this time, there were no red clouds in the night sky. There wasn't even a trace of cloud in the clear sky. It was impossible for the blood moon to be blocked by red clouds. But the strange thing was that a corner of the blood moon was already broken. Moreover, the broken blood moon didn't stop and was expanding little by little. Zhu Qing naturally also woke up and looked up like Xiaohua. Heavenly dog devouring moon. Seeing such a strange scene, Zhu Qing couldn't help but cry out, "No wonder! The night of the 15th of the 7th month is the time when the netherworld's Yin energy will leak out and the 100 ghosts will parade. Now that the moon is being eaten by the heavenly dog, the Yin energy between heaven and earth will probably be at its peak." Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and looked at the broken moonlight. He said word by word, "With such a strange situation, it would be strange if nothing happened." Hearing these words, Zhu Qing couldn't help but tremble and his teeth couldn't help but chatter. Xiaohua slightly turned his head and looked at Zhu Qing strangely. However, Zhu Qing didn't answer and reluctantly asked, "Taoist Master Xiao, are there any wandering souls coming out of the ghost cave?" Chapter 3855. How should I stop it? Xiaohua felt the increasingly desolate aura around him. He raised his head to look at the blood moon that was almost completely devoured. He understood in his heart that as long as he waited for the blood moon to disappear, it might be the time for the underground ghost to appear. At that time, it would also be the time for him to fall. Perhaps the green-robed Xiaohua can save some villagers. Moreover, if I die, the green-robed Xiaohua also knows the soul-scattering cultivation technique. Maybe he can escape with his life? In this blood-red domain, Xiaohua's perception of the green-robed Xiaohua gradually weakened. He was increasingly unable to know what the green-robed Xiaohua was doing. "Gotcha!" Xiaohua clenched his teeth. A green light flashed between his eyebrows. He used the lightning flash and thunder roll technique. Layers of green seal characters appeared above the light hole. The three corpses in thunder roared and pounced on the wandering souls that rushed into the light hole. Seeing the wandering soul being reduced to nothingness by the three corpses in lightning, the ghost under the ground let out another obscure groan. A faint layer of blood-red light flashed, and the dragon-like lightning instantly disappeared. Even Xiaohua's body was shackled like a rock, making it difficult for him to move. "Rule?" Xiaohua was shocked. He immediately thought of the situation when he encountered the blood-drop paradise. He immediately understood that within this blood-red light, the area within 1,000 miles was the ghost's domain. All of his divine abilities would be restricted within this domain. Xiaohua was shocked. He activated the heavenly law embodiment technique. A heaven-shaking roar sounded. A huge Dharma image appeared. This was not outside of Xiaohua's expectations. The Dharma image that could originally grow to 1,000 feet could now only grow to 100 feet in the ghost's domain. However, with the help of the holy bloodline, Xiaohua's Dharma image was much more flexible than before. Xiaohua, who had formed the Dharma image, quickly thought, "The ghost's rule is everywhere within the domain. All of my divine abilities are useless. Moreover, the ghost hasn't appeared yet. Even if I use the demonic blade, it won't work. The only thing I can do now is to stop the ghost from appearing." Obviously, the netherworld energy and countless wandering souls were exactly what the ghost needed. If the 9 ghost caves were blocked, the chi of the netherworld and the wandering souls would not be able to escape. Naturally, they would be able to stop the ghosts. Now that it's impossible to block the ghost cave, we'll have to snatch the netherworld energy and wandering souls away from the ghost's control. While thinking, Xiaohua waved the willow branch again. As soon as the willow branch appeared, a 10-colored rainbow bridge also flew out. The rainbow bridge paused in the air for a moment and then turned into countless 10-colored rainbow bridges. These rainbow bridges fell on the heads of the wandering souls one by one, not one more, not one less. "Collect." Xiaohua felt the willow branch in his hand suddenly sink, as if it was about to fall out of his hand. He understood that the willow branch had already succeeded. He immediately let out a low roar and lifted the willow branch up with one hand. However, Xiaohua, who has boundless strength, is currently holding the willow branch in his hand. It is as if he is holding an enormous object, and he is unable to move at all. Not good. Xiao Hua immediately understood. This Xiao was a bit greedy. Not to mention that this Xiao does not know how to use this willow branch. Even if this Xiao knew, with this Xiao's current cultivation, without the control of Buddha Bodhi, how can this Xiao collect so many wandering souls? Suddenly, the entire earth began to tremble. The blood-colored domain was shaking crazily, and a series of strange syllables rang out in Xiao Hua's ears. Clearly, the ghost that hadn't appeared was incomparably shocked. Who are you? Why do you have Higgin? A jerky, stuttering voice strangely appeared. It was not a voice that came from the mouth of a living person. Higgin? Xiao Hua's eyes turned. He knew that the willow branch's name was Higgin. He immediately sneered, this old man is Duanmu Liangsheng. You know the Duanmu family, right? This old man does not need to say more. If you have any sense, quickly retreat and don't show your face. Otherwise, even if this old man does not kill you today, my Duanmu family will definitely chase you to the 9th hell and destroy your soul. Duanmu Liangsheng? Gij, a mere Duanmu family, actually dares to be so arrogant. The voice became increasingly smooth. Following this voice, Xiao Hua suddenly felt a burning pain in his hand. He could not help but let go. A layer of blood-red imprint flashed across the willow branch. The moment the imprint appeared, it immediately turned into a cluster of dark green flames and disappeared. The ghost's miserable shriek sounded in Xiao Hua's ears. Xiao Hua did not dare to reach out to grab the willow branch again. In a flash, he immediately used his mind to sweep it. So, with a light sound, the willow branch fell into the space. Following his mind into the dark side of the space, there were also some netherworld chi and many wandering souls. Damn Duanmu family. This official will definitely not let you off. The ghost seemed to be injured from snatching the willow branch. The vicious voice sounded very comfortable in Xiao Hua's ears. Xiao Hua thought that the ghost had retreated. However, in a moment, the ghost's voice sounded again. Duanmu Liangsheng, wait until this official gets out. I will definitely let you know the consequences of stopping this official. The ghost's words immediately knocked Xiao Hua down from the 9th heaven. What? This guy still wants to come out? His grandmother, he still calls himself this official. What kind of official is this guy? Confucian cultivators call the 9 underworlds the underworld the underworld. Could it be that this ghost is some official of the underworld? No, I definitely cannot let this ghost out. Xiao Hua's eyes turned rapidly. The Permitha willow branch is a great killing weapon. I must save it until the end. I cannot waste it for no reason. Since this Xiao's mind can also collect the netherworld wind and the wandering souls, if you don't let me, then I will use my mind to collect it. Xiao Hua had previously used his mind to collect the netherworld water. However, the netherworld water was a tangible thing, while the netherworld chi and the wandering souls were formless. Xiao Hua did not feel that he could collect it. Now that he had inadvertently succeeded, why would Xiao Hua hesitate? Within the ghost's domain, the rules were everywhere. However, there were very few restrictions on something as ethereal as the mind. Xiao Hua's mind had already covered the area within 1,000 li, collect. Following Xiao Hua's cold laugh, the valiant mind that could collect the metal and earth magnetism into the space immediately swept up the netherworld chi and the wandering souls. It fought against the valiant suction force within the light hole and pulled them into the dark side of the space. Xiao Hua's cultivation was definitely not comparable to that ghost that had never shown its face. However, this kind of crooked robbery technique of his was much stronger than that ghost's. In just a few breaths, Xiao Hua had already taken away 70% of the netherworld chi and the wandering souls from the light hole. Oh! The entire earth shook once again. Bloody light flashed chaotically within the domain. The ghost's flustered and exasperated howls rang incessantly. Damn Duanmu family! This official will let you know the consequences of offending this official? That ghost sneered. The confinement force around Xiao Hua's demonic body suddenly increased. Moreover, countless thumb-sized ghost heads emerged from the bloody light and attacked the demonic body. However, before the ghost heads could come within 1 qi of Xiaohua, the power of the stars and moon appeared on the demonic body and blocked the ghost heads. Woo! The suction force above the light hole increased once again, competing with Xiaohua's mind for the wandering souls. Xiaohua stood in midair and sneered. He might as well take drastic measures. His mind left the surroundings of the light hole and landed on the 9 ghost caves. The netherworld qi and the wandering souls that were spouting out from the ghost caves did not fall at all. They were all collected by Xiaohua. In the beginning, that ghost clearly did not notice anything. However, as the amount of netherworld qi and the wandering souls within the light hole decreased, the ghost finally woke up. Many more ghost heads rushed out from the domain. There were also dense wisps of blood that wandered all over the place, wanting to stop Xiaohua's methods. However, these methods to Xiaohua were tantamount to scratching an itch through a boot. They were completely useless. Of course, Xiaohua would not really believe that the ghost had no way to stop his mind within his domain. He knew that when the full moon was completely swallowed by the heavenly hound, victory and defeat would be decided. Sure enough, in just a moment, Xiaohua suddenly felt his surroundings turn black. This kind of black was not the kind that could be seen with the naked eye. It was completely a kind of perception in the heart. Xiaohua understood that the heavenly hound's lunar eclipse had already been completed. Sure enough, high up in the sky, the place where the blood moon was located was pitch black. The group of stars that were originally blocked by the moonlight now became even more resplendent. Even the edges of the group of stars produced a layer of halo. Every star appeared to be several times larger. It was also when this darkness appeared that the green-robed Xiaohua's message came from Xiaohua's mind. In this short period of time, the green-robed Xiaohua hurriedly set up a formation, barely managing to roughly protect the 3 towns. Moreover, under the fight between Xiaohua and the ghost, the netherworld qi did not cause any particularly large damage to the 3 towns. However, this message disappeared in a flash. Xiaohua had just calmed down for a moment when the green-robed Xiaohua disappeared without a trace. The demonic phoenix Xiaohua within his body desperately absorbed the essence of the stars and moon. Layers of faint halos of the stars were also produced outside Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua sighed. Forget it. Tonight's opponent is unprecedented. Let's go all out. Just after Xiaohua's sigh, a loud hong sound was heard. A cluster of black qi that was even more pitch black than the night sky spurted out from the previous light hole. The netherworld qi within the blood threads in the entire night sky instantly entered this black qi. An even more bone-chilling cold rushed out from the entire night sky. Death qi. Xiaohua's eyes slightly narrowed. Looking at the light hole that kept spurting out the black qi, he already had a plan in his mind. This ghost is the ghost of the underworld. It can't leave the death qi. It can't touch the heaven and earth origin qi or righteous qi. If it wants to move within the hidden immortal continent, it must lay down a domain. After filling the domain with the death qi, it can come out. In other words, as long as this domain is broken, there is no need for this Xiao to make a move. The hidden immortal continent's ubiquitous life qi can kill it. And in contrast, if the cultivators of my hidden immortal continent enter the underworld, their biggest enemy is not the ghost, but the ubiquitous death qi. However, at this time and place, who has such great divine ability to break this ghost's domain? Chapter 3856. Qi. A sneer like that of a night owl was heard. A wisp of smoke-like shadow flew out from the light hole along with the black qi. Amidst the sneer, it expanded like a balloon. In a short moment, it transformed into a body that was 100 zhang in size. Xiaohua's heavens, I could clearly see that this ghost's body was covered in a mist-formed official's robe. This official's robe was very strange. In the pitch-black death qi, it presented a terrifying scarlet color. The official's robe was engraved with a gray river and a malevolent ghost beast. The beast's head was like an ordinary general's armor, protecting the front of the ghost's chest. In the middle of the official's robe, there was an almost colorless robe belt. On the ghost's head, there was a red official's hat. On both sides of the official's hat, there were two ghosts formed from death chi. They were looking at Xiao Hua with their sharp teeth. Under the official's hat, where the ghost's face should be, there was a surge of mist that completely covered the ghost's face. It was simply impossible to see the ghost's true appearance. Judge? Looking at the ghost's appearance, Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. Although he couldn't see the ghost's appearance, its outfit was very similar to the underworld's judges of the hidden immortal continent. The only thing missing was the book of life and death in its left hand and the soul hooking brush in its right hand. Oh! The ghost's figure was revealed. It suddenly opened its mouth, and an abnormal malevolent ghost face suddenly appeared in the mist. At the same time this ghost face appeared, Xiao Hua felt a pain in his mind. The ghost face was deeply imprinted in his mind. Immediately, Xiao Hua's mysterious dark cloud rapidly surged. It was as if a huge force was born from the ghost's open mouth, wanting to swallow Xiao Hua's soul. Rumble! There was no need for Xiao Hua to command it. Inside the mysterious dark cloud, Xiao Hua's soul cultivator Xiao Hua responded. Streaks of 3 corpses in thunder seeped out from the mysterious dark cloud. It was like a torrential waterfall that defeated the suction force in the ghost's mouth. Along with the appearance of the 3 corpses in thunder, the ghost's face flashed with lightning. Under the lightning, the ghost's malevolent face was smashed to pieces. Oh! The ghost was slightly startled. It hissed and suddenly retreated. It seemed that it didn't expect Xiao Hua to be able to block its attack and even counterattack. Puff, puff, puff. Just as the ghost made way for the hole of light, another 3 soft sounds were heard. 3 rays of light suddenly appeared in the pitch-black night sky, and from below the ghost, 3 human figures with red, yellow, and blue circling around each of them soared into the sky. Xiao Hua was. When he suddenly saw 3 human figures, he couldn't help but be alarmed. When Xiao Hua carefully looked at it, he couldn't help but be surprised and happy. The red figure was a wooden carving of an old man, which was exactly the same as the portrait of Zhu Xi that Xiao Hua had seen in Zhujia Manor. At this moment, red flames were flashing inside the wooden statue. The flames overflowed the wooden statue, and lotus-like clouds wrapped around the wooden statue of Zhu Xi. Zhu rushed out of the light hole. Immediately, the wooden figure emitted a fierce aura like a flying sword. A dignified will like that of a mountain began to chant. The ruler is the leader of the subjects, the father is the leader of the children, and the husband is the leader of the wife. These are the 3 leaders. Human beings have benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and trust. These are the 5 pillars. You are a ghost, you don't have the 3 pillars and 5 pillars. Retreat, retreat, retreat. As Master Zhu chanted the mantra, streams of righteous energy condensed into mountains. They flashed with red light and descended from the sky, carrying with them the aura of eternity. Not only did they tear apart the ghost's domain, they even smashed into the ghost's body. At the same time, the yellow wooden sculpture also moved. This wooden sculpture was of a middle-aged man with a bulging forehead. Yellow flames flickered within the middle-aged man's body, and similarly, countless lily-like clouds wrapped around him. As soon as the middle-aged man appeared, an extremely indifferent aura spread out from the wooden sculpture. Similarly, a will that made Xiao Hua look up to him in awe began to recite. In ancient times, those who wished to benefit the world should first rule their country. Those who wished to rule their country should first unify their family. Those who wished to unify their family should first cultivate their body. Those who wish to cultivate their body should first straighten their heart. Those who wish to straighten their heart should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten their mind should first be sincere. Those who wish to straighten out their mind to know is to investigate things. Investigating things leads to knowing things. Knowing things leads to sincerity. Sincerity leads to righteous heart. Righteous heart leads to cultivation. Righteous heart leads to cultivation of the body. Cultivation of the body leads to unity of the family. Unity of the family leads to unity of the country. Unity of the country leads to peace of the world. Since the world is at peace, there is no place for ghosts to stay. Retreat, retreat, retreat. Zhengzi. Xiaohua's eyes flashed with pleasant surprise. So, Zhu of Zhu, Zhengzi, and Sun Zi, the three saints, all left their wills in the wooden figures. They left them here to suppress this ghost. The more Zhengzi's will spoke, the more righteous energy it attracted. This unparalleled righteous energy was like an all-pervasive weak water. It flashed with yellow light and also rushed towards the ghost's body. Zhu of Zhu and Zhengzi's wooden figures appeared. Then the other figure flashing with blue flames and clouds was naturally Sun Zi. The will of this simple and unadorned, thin saint let out a golden jade-like cry. The ruler of the country is the use of the world system. The ruler of the people is the advantage of the world. If one obtains the Tao and controls it, then there is great peace, great glory, and the source of accumulated beauty. If one does not obtain the Tao and controls it, then there is great danger and great tiredness. It is better not to have it than to have it. It is worse than to have it. A country has its laws and a family has its rules. Where ghosts live is the underworld. Retreat, retreat, retreat. Sun Zi's words were like a flying sword. It tore apart the domain's deathly energy and stabbed towards the ghost. The wooden figures of the three saints each flew out. The red, yellow, and blue emitted a strong aura to suppress the ghost. At this time, the wills of the three saints attacked again. Three righteous energies with unparalleled power smashed towards the ghost. The ghost's face had long been shattered. It was now filled with black mist, so its expression couldn't be seen. However, the moment the three righteous energies approached, the ghost waved its right hand and a red brush appeared. Then, the ghost waved its right hand and a wave of deathly energy poured into the red brush. The ghost then shook its hand. In a few breaths' time, three strange characters appeared. The moment these characters appeared, they immediately emitted a ghostly wail and howl. They roared and pounced towards the three righteous energies. Boom! Amidst a huge explosion, cracks appeared in the void around the ghost. Even more blood and ghost heads rushed out from the void and pounced towards the wooden figures of the three saints. However, the ghost's red brush couldn't block the three righteous energies. The righteous energies that seemed to be able to destroy everything destroyed the characters and continued to pounce towards the ghost. Even the filth that appeared in the void was destroyed by the three colored clouds before it could even get close to the wooden figures. Boom boom boom. The three righteous energies struck the ghost's official robe. Waves of majestic syllables came out from the robe. The syllables were like green seal characters that could communicate with ghosts and gods. They blocked the righteous energies. Although the syllables were instantly destroyed by the righteous energies power had already been reduced by more than half. The fog around the ghost suddenly rose up high. However, when the fog gathered again, the ghost's body had already shrunk by one size. Kiki. The ghost laughed nastily. Three old farts. Your main body isn't even here, yet you still want to suppress this official. Don't you think you're being too delusional? Tonight is the time of the lunar eclipse. Your suppressive power has already reached its weakest point. This official has already completed the 9 returns matriarchs seeking array. Even if I can't destroy your wills tonight, this official's true self will definitely receive news of this official. It won't be long before my main body finds this place. When that time comes, it won't be as simple as tonight. My two old friends. Zhu Zi's voice came from the wooden figure. This old man has been suppressing this fiend here for so many years. The Xiantian true energy can only nourish living things, not us. I'm afraid this old man won't be able to hold on for much longer. That's right. Since this fiend has already sent news to my main body, there's no point in suppressing this fiend anymore. Since we've already become enemies with the judge, we might as well kill him. This was what Zheng Zi said. Sun Zi's voice came again. In order to suppress this fiend, our three families have paid a great price. It's time to end this. Since that's the case, then, kill him. Zhu Zi coldly snorted. The fire on the wooden figure suddenly brightened, as if the entire wooden figure had been set ablaze. Moreover, wherever the fire shone, the ghost's domain collapsed. All of the death energy was turned into nothingness by the fire. Run? Or don't run? Seeing the ghost's domain break, Xiaohua's eyes looked at the night sky outside the domain. His heart moved. However, it was only a moment before Xiaohua strangled this thought. How could he escape at this time? Xiaohua held the willow branch in his hand and stared fixedly at the ghost. Buzz. Zheng Zi and Sun Zi, who were suppressing the ghost in the shape of horns, also had their wooden figures flickering with fire. Moreover, they moved closer to Zhu Zi's red fire. This three-colored fire was so dazzling. Not only did the true energy in Xiaohua's dantian feel as if it was about to leave his body, even the ghost couldn't help but raise the red brush in front of its non-existent eyes. Right at this moment, Xiaohua saw that the ghost was distracted and unhesitatingly waved the willow branch. Shua! Wherever the willow branch went, the death energy disappeared. An invisible 10-colored rainbow bridge fell on the ghost's body. Gee! Who knew that at this moment, the ghost would let out a strange laugh. Its fog-like figure suddenly moved. The red brush in its hand was thrown, blocking the rainbow bridge. Shua! At the same time the red brush disappeared, the willow branch also returned. Xiaohua's hand tightened. The willow branch was as heavy as 1,000 caddies again. Damn it, I've been tricked. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He immediately understood the ghost's thoughts. This bastard is loosening the reins only to grasp them better. He knows that this Xiao can't use the willow branch too many times, so he pretended to be unable to defeat this Xiao and baited this Xiao into attacking. He then used the soul hooking brush to replace the peach corpse to avoid the other side's attack. This Xiao might be able to use it once now, but how can this bastard just stand there and let this Xiao kill him? Moreover, since this bastard can dodge the wills of the three saints might not be able to kill this bastard. Chapter 3857. Run. Xiaohua almost instantly made a decision in his heart. With a thought, Xiaohua's figure instantly turned into a gust of wind and fled into the distance. The green-robed Xiaohua, who was hiding in the distance, naturally followed Xiaohua's example. Just as Xiaohua had expected, when the ghost dodged, the wooden statues of the three holy men merged together. The three colored sparks converged and immediately transformed into a pillar of fire that pierced through the heavens and the earth. This pillar of fire contained a vast and mighty aura that poured down towards the top of the ghost's head. The might of this pillar of fire was so great that before it even landed, the ghost's official hat had already split open. The ghost heads on both sides of the official hat had already shrieked and turned into pus. However, under the light of the fire, the ghost's malevolent ghost face appeared again. Moreover, this ghost face didn't have a trace of panic on it. Instead, its scarlet eyes even carried a trace of excitement. Gee! The ghost laughed wildly. 3 old farts, you've suppressed this official for so long, but do you know why this official came here from the underworld? Today, I'll let you see the true purpose of this official's visit. As it spoke, the ghost opened its mouth. Pooh! A thick golden aura shot out from its mouth and directly pierced into the pillar of fire. Boom! The three-colored pillar of fire's destructive aura was unparalleled, but it was powerless against this incomparably pure golden aura. The pillar of fire that reached the heavens and the earth was split into 3. Moreover, this golden aura cleverly pierced into the 3 wooden statues at the same time. Clearly, this attack had been prepared by the ghost long ago. Gold. Zheng Zi's voice had just uttered a word when it was immediately killed by the surging golden aura. Although the saint's willpower was powerful, it was still only at the 9th level of origin energy. After being worn down by the aura of death for so many years, how could it be a match for the golden aura? Since Tsingzi was like this, the other two saints also couldn't be kind. When the three saints' willpower was destroyed, the three wooden statues also fell from the sky. Of course, under the combined power of the three saints, although the pillar of fire was scattered, the pillar of fire still landed on the ghost's head. After the three pillars of fire were extinguished, the ghost's body was only left with less than 30% of its original size. Watching the three wooden statues flicker like embers as they fell into the hole of light, the ghost laughed heartily. Humans always think that they're smart, but they don't realize that how can humans defeat ghosts? What's more, I'm an infernal judge among ghosts. If it weren't for someone causing trouble today, this official wouldn't have suffered such a small loss. At this point, the ghost suddenly realized something and shouted, "Duanmu Liangxing, where do you think you're going?" Xiao Hua's heart was indeed benevolent. He really wanted to spare no effort to save Wuyuan County, Jingyue County, and Fanchang County. There were over 1 million people in these three towns. Even if the 9 ghost caves erupted at the same time without any warning, even if tens of thousands of wandering souls and malicious ghosts rushed out from the underworld, he still stood in front of the mortals. He still let the green-robed Xiao Hua go to the three towns to lay down a great formation. Wanted to make some sacrifices. However, when he saw the appearance of the underworld's judges, as well as the wooden statues and wills of the three saints, Xiao Hua realized that the situation had far exceeded his expectations. When he saw the three saints joining hands to fight against the enemy, Xiao Hua understood even more clearly that the three saints were staking everything on a single throw. He almost didn't hesitate to escape. If he wanted to save people, he would have to take out a strong divine ability. Without a strong divine ability, he would only be throwing his life away. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua still underestimated the strength of the underworld's judges. Although this underworld's judges had already been injured by the wills of the three saints of literature, the underworld's judge angrily roared, "Duanmu Liangxing, where do you think you're going?" Following which, the underworld's judge's figure turned into a cloud of black fog and chased after Xiao Hua. At the same time the underworld's judge flew, the official robes he was wearing previously turned into a layer of strange scales. These scales were like protruding mountain rocks, and between the mountain rocks, there was a faint flow of netherworld water. Layers upon layers of imperceptible fluctuations were emitted from this official robes, blocking all the energy of heaven and earth a few feet away. Moreover, as the underworld's judge flew, strands of black fog were also emitted from the mountain rocks on the official robes, disappearing into the night sky. The underworld's judge's roar was different from an ordinary person's. This roar instantly entered Xiao Hua's mysterious dark clouds, scaring Xiao Hua to the point that his body trembled and he almost fell from the sky. He really didn't expect that in just a few breaths, the three saints of literature would be completely defeated. Damn it! Xiao Hua didn't hesitate to use the lightning escape technique. Even the green-robed Xiao Hua didn't care about it anymore. Lightning flashed around his body as he flew towards the horizon. Damn it! The underworld's judge had the same feeling as Xiao Hua. Seeing Xiao Hua's figure that was faster than a meteor and the lightning around his body that made his heart palpitate, he cursed in his heart. Although his divine ability was incomparable, all of his divine abilities relied on the death chi. Now that he was flying in a vast sea of yang chi, it was even more uncomfortable than ordinary people holding their breath underwater. Although he could use his domain to block the yang chi outside his domain, he was just injured by the will of the three saints of literature. His strength was only 30% of his usual. Therefore, even when he was flying, he had to rely on the protection of the underworld's official robes. He didn't want to waste the death chi. Even so, the strands of black fog that were emitted in the sky was also the consumption of his body. If this continued, there was no need for Xiao Hua to fight back. Just the yang chi of the hidden immortal continent would be enough to kill him. Of course, the reason why the underworld's judge chased after Xiao Hua was not only because Xiao Hua almost ruined his big plan, the most important thing was the Permitha in Xiao Hua's hands. To the underworld's judge, the Permitha was 100 times more important than the thing he conspired in Wuyuan County. Since this underworld's judge could pay a lot for that thing, he would definitely not give up the Permitha that was so easily obtained. The underworld's judge's black fog was originally very light, but it was also very fast. However, it was still not as fast as Xiao Hua. Seeing Xiao Hua getting further and further away, the underworld's judge coldly snorted and said with a smile, "The cultivators of the human realm really haven't seen the world. This kind of escape technique is admittedly incomparably marvelous, but in this official's eyes, it's not even worth shit." While speaking, a robe belt flew out from the black fog. It was precisely the robe of the underworld's judge from before. As soon as that robe belt flew out from the black fog, it immediately issued a sizzling sound, just like a drop of water falling into a pot of boiling oil. That endless yang qi quickly swallowed this robe belt. A strange roar came from the black fog. A gloomy brilliance flashed on the robe belt, and in a flash, it turned into a chain. That chain had some blood and rust spots on it, and green threads flashed inside. As soon as the chain was born, the entire night sky became several degrees colder. The chain flashed in midair and disappeared in a flash. And in the distance, Xiao Hua, who had already flown several hundred li, suddenly slowed down. An aura that made his heart tremble with fear pounced on him without any warning. Xiao Hua knew that his divine sense was useless against ghosts. He hastily turned his head and saw a blood-colored chain flashing with a gloomy green brilliance. It was like a poisonous snake, and in the blink of an eye, it already flew to the back of his head. Xiao Hua made a prompt decision. A green light flashed between his eyebrows, and he used the lightning flash and thunder roll technique. Rumble. Lightning surged out like a tide and pounced on the chain. However, the chain was really like a flood dragon crossing the sea. With a slight sway, all the lightning was swept away by it. See! Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed. He wanted to use the Buddhist seal technique again, but just as this thought appeared in his mind, before that chain even reached his body, an invisible band like a tight hoop came from outside his mysterious dark cloud and tied it up in an instant. Rumble. At the same time that the mysterious dark cloud was tied up, the heavenly patterns on it flashed with a gloomy green lightning and desperately resisted. Inside the mysterious dark cloud, Xiao Hua also waved his hands. One after another, green seal characters flew out from the dark cloud, and the mournful cries of ghosts and gods were unceasingly heard. But in the end, these could not resist the imprisonment. What was more special was that when the chain fell down, it did not bind Xiao Hua's body, but directly tied up the mysterious dark cloud tightly. At the same time, from the other end of the chain came a powerful force that Xiao Hua could not resist, pulling Xiao Hua's mysterious dark cloud back. Although Xiao Hua possessed great magical abilities, had a strong body, and had an unparalleled lightning escape technique under the binding of the ghost's soul-capturing chain, he had no power to fight back. He could only obediently follow the force of the chain, flying back at a speed 30% faster than before. Furthermore, the force of the chain was extremely powerful, and it was the nemesis of souls. Xiao Hua's mysterious dark cloud was bound and deformed. Xiao Hua, who was a soul cultivator in the sky of heart, was bound tightly. Even Whitey, who was majestic and awe-inspiring in the blood ocean of the netherworld in the millions of Meng Mountains, was currently suppressed by the force of the chain, unable to move at all. What was special was that a pain that was several times sharper than having one's bones scraped was produced from the point where the chain came into contact with the mysterious dark cloud, and it went straight into Xiao Hua's soul. This pain forced Xiao Hua to tumble in the air every few feet, and he kept roaring in a very sorry state. Naturally, the ghost judge would not expose himself to the yang energy, although the yang energy had weakened a lot because of the lunar eclipse. When he returned to the previous light hole, the domain formed by the death energy was already intact. Xiao Hua was rolling and roaring all the way, as if he was tortured to the point of exhaustion. When he was pulled into the dark domain, his roaring voice was somewhat hoarse. Looking at the anger in Xiao Hua's eyes, the ghost judge laughed and said, "Duan Mu Liangxing, you're secretly happy." Fortunately, the one you met tonight is me. This is just a light punishment for your previous disrespect. If it was me, with just a stroke of the soul-capturing pen on the book of life and death, your lifespan would be completely gone, and your soul would be separated from your body. At that time, no matter how strong your cultivation base is, it would all turn into flowing water. What official of hell are you? When Xiao Hua saw the ghost judge did not immediately take action, he quickly thought of something. Enduring the pain, he stood up and asked in a deep voice. Of course I'm the ghost judge. Don't tell me you can't recognize me? The ghost judge's figure had already turned into a malicious ghost. Although there was a kind of gentleness in his words, the fierceness on his face did not decrease in the slightest. This official's portrait is in countless paintings and paintings on the hidden immortal continent. Chapter 3858. Xiao Hua pinches his chin, pretending to look carefully. After a long while, he faintly shakes his head. The judge in the portrait is very fierce, far from your excellency's benevolence. This little one can't see it. Hee. Hearing this, the ghost judge unconsciously laughs. Fellow Taoist Duanmu is indeed interesting. Hee, I wouldn't dare. At this time, how could Xiao Hua not know that this ghost judge has ulterior motives? He covers up the pain on his face, changes to a smiling face and cups his hands. This little one is just an ordinary person. How could I dare to make friends with an official of the underworld? Calling me Duanmu Liangxing, this little one is already endlessly grateful. Good. The ghost judge laughs loudly. It's rare for your excellency to be so flexible. You're really a character. This official thinks that you'll become a literary star sooner or later. Your achievements will definitely be 100 times better than those 3 old undying literary saints. That day, if those 3 old undying could get along with this official so harmoniously, how could their family line be cut off? Hearing this, Xiao Hua's heart is moved, and he says curiously, Official, this little one is somewhat puzzled. The decline of the Zhu family, Zheng family, and Sun family is obvious to all of the scholarly families of the hidden immortal continent. In the past, perhaps they were incomparably mighty, perhaps their power was monstrous, but now, compared to my Duanmu family, they're not even a little bit worse. When this little one came here to visit Zhu Qing, I thought about this matter, but in the end, I didn't get anything. I don't know if this matter has any relation with official? Little friend Duanmu, could it be that you've forgotten what position this official has in the underworld? The ghost judge says proudly, even the way he addresses this official has changed. Xiao Hua's heart is moved. He suddenly thought of something, then he exclaims with a kind of inconceivable tone, Could it be that this is all part of official's plan? Of course it's this official. The ghost judge says with a smile. These 3 old undying suppressed this official here. They thought that this official would no longer have the power to fight back, and in the long run, this official would be killed by their Xiantian true qi. Unfortunately, they never imagined that not only did I have a way to deal with their wills, I also had a way that they were unable to touch. I control the life and death of all things in the world. In the face of life and death, all wealth and power are completely pale and powerless. Even immortals and Buddhas have to bow their heads. I only need to move the soul-hooking pen slightly and flip the life and death book slightly, and immediately countless Confucian disciples will serve me. It's hard to kill a literary sage, but to topple a scholarly family, that's really easy. Hiss. Xiao Hua didn't know if what this ghost judge said was true or not, but he still pretended to suck in a breath of cold air, cupped his hands and said, Official, you really are an official. He's 100 times more scheming than us. Duanmu Liangxing really admires him. It doesn't matter. The ghost judge raised his hand and said, Little friend Duanmu and I didn't get to know each other until we fought. Not to mention the immeasurable lifespan, I can even give you many benefits that you can't even imagine. Official, what benefits can you give me? Xiao Hua's eyes narrowed into a slit as he asked with a smile. Unfortunately, the ghost judge's body moved a bit and said, Although I don't dare to say that I can give you everything, as long as you can use it in the hidden immortal continent, I can give it to you. Of course, you have to agree to my conditions first. Xiao Hua and the ghost judge talked nonsense for a long time. At this time, he knew that he couldn't delay any longer. Even if the lunar eclipse was going to end soon, the ghost judge would definitely not let him wait until that time. Not to mention that he was in the other party's domain. Whether or not the lunar eclipse would affect this domain was unknown. I wonder what officials' conditions are? Xiao Hua probed. Permitha. At this time, the ghost judge was actually somewhat stingy with his words. Oh, it's that willow branch. Xiao Hua said with a smile. Official, please wait a moment, I'll give it to you. Wait. Seeing that Xiao Hua was about to extend his hand, the ghost judge actually raised his misty hand and hastily said, What's the matter? Xiao Hua was slightly surprised and asked, Put Permitha in the storage bag, give me the storage bag. Oh, what a coincidence. Xiao Hua touched his head and said very embarrassedly, I just finished using my Qinkuan bag. Hee, little friend Duanmu is not honest. The ghost judge slightly smiled. The chain outside the mysterious dark cloud of Xiao Hua suddenly tightened. An indescribable pain came, causing Xiao Hua to be unable to help but cry out. Official, please spare me. Xiao Hua hastily begged for mercy. I just remembered, I just finished using my Qinkuan bag. I just happened to have a small Qinkuan bag, please wait a moment. Saying this, Xiao Hua hastily took out a Qinkuan bag from his bosom and handed it over to the ghost judge. That willow branch is inside, do you want to take a look first? Now that's a good child. The ghost judge said with a smile. The black mist on his ferocious face was boiling. Official, can you loosen this chain a bit? Xiao Hua stretched out his hand and then retracted it, begging, Moreover, if I give the willow branch to official and official doesn't let me go, what should I do? Hee, you humans have a saying, humans are meat on the chopping block, I'm meat on the chopping block. Little friend Duanmu, do you think you have a choice? The ghost judge laughed coldly. But Xiao Hua was still hesitant. The Qinkuan bag in his hand expanded and contracted a few times, as if there really was a willow branch in the bag. The ghost judge was not in a hurry, only coldly looking at Xiao Hua. When Xiao Hua opened his mouth again, he said, I feel that something is wrong. It's not that I don't believe in official, but this so-called Permitha is my last resort. But there is no yours. The ghost judge said coldly, I bet that you don't know what this Permitha is. Otherwise, you definitely wouldn't casually use it here. I don't know how you can use this Permitha, but I can be sure that if this item is in your hands, sooner or later you will die because of it. In other words, if you don't give this item to me, you will soon fall into my soul-hooking pen. Official, can you dispel my doubts? Xiao Hua's face revealed a shocked expression. Hee, this Permitha is no longer little friend's. Little friend doesn't need to inquire anymore. The ghost judge said with a smile, if you can cultivate to the literary star realm, perhaps you can obtain some information about this item. A pained expression immediately appeared on Xiao Hua's face. However, immediately after, Xiao Hua screamed again. He hurriedly waved his hand and the Qinkuan bag flew towards the ghost judge. Sir, spare me, spare me. The ghost judge stared at Xiao Hua's hands and coldly snorted. He calmly waited for the Qinkuan bag to fly closer. That perfectly straight chain connected to the black fog slightly trembled, as if there was any abnormal movement, the chain could be activated at any time. What's special is that around Xiao Hua's surroundings, strands of black fog faintly appeared, as if the entire domain's attention was focused on this place. Xiao Hua's hands were placed in front of him, not daring to move. His eyes were also looking at the Qinkuan bag. When the Qinkuan bag neared the ghost judge, a large hand stretched out from the black fog and pulled the Qinkuan bag into the black fog. Only then did the tense atmosphere in the entire domain slightly relaxed. Official. Xiao Hua still didn't dare to move and opened his mouth. However, just as Xiao Hua said those two words, without waiting for the ghost judge to reply, the sound of wind flashed in his right hand and Permitha suddenly appeared. At the same time Permitha appeared, Xiao Hua's right hand suddenly waved, A 10-colored rainbow broke through all the restrictions of the domain and hit the ghost judge's black fog in the blink of an eye. A blood-curdling scream, followed by a zzz, a strong impact sound. Outside the black fog formed by the ghost judge, the underworld official's robe emitted a black lightning-like light. The entire official's robe turned into several strands of ashes and slowly fell down. In the ashes, the black fog flashed and disappeared. The rainbow bridge actually missed. This is bad. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. His heavenly vision hastily looked around. The Permitha in his hand wanted to chase and attack again. However, he raised his hand again and again. This time, he was really exhausted. That willow branch didn't even move a bit. Damn it, damn it, damn it. The black shadow swayed again and angrily cursed. It was unknown where it came from, but it was still coiled in the air. However, at this time, the black fog was once again reduced by 30%. The rainbow bridge from before was admittedly missed because of the ghost judge's teleportation. However, just by the rainbow bridge passing through the domain, 30% of the black fog was already wiped out. If Xiaohua could use the rainbow bridge to hit the black fog, he would probably be able to kill the ghost judge. Damn it. Xiaohua muttered at the same time as the ghost magistrate. He was a little regretful. If he had used the Permitha for the last time when the three saints of literature were suppressing the ghost, he might have been able to kill it. Pooh! After the ghost judge angrily cursed, an incomparably sharp gold chi suddenly appeared somewhere in the black fog. Like a sharp sword, it madly rushed toward Xiaohua. Seeing this incomparably pure gold chi directly stabbing into his heart, Xiaohua understood that the ghost judge had already given birth to a killing intent. He hurriedly released his divine sense to retrieve the willow branch. At the same time, he used the ethereal steps and his figure rapidly flashed. Boom! The gold chi slightly tilted and hit Xiaohua's left shoulder. As soon as the gold chi entered Xiaohua's body, a large hole was actually pierced through by this gold chi. Xiaohua was greatly shocked. Not only was it because of the sharp pain on his left shoulder, but more importantly, it was because he sensed a dense aura of heaven-earth origin chi from this gold chi. This ghost can also control heaven-earth origin chi? However, he didn't have time to think too much. The chain floating in the air rapidly shook and turned into a poisonous snake that pounced towards his mysterious dark cloud. The chain that was originally entwined with the dark cloud turned into a sawtooth shape and pounced towards Xiaohua's soul, wanting to tear it into pieces in an instant. Chapter 3859. Roar. Xiaohua endured the pain, roared, and shouted, "Where is Confucian, fellow Taoist? Fellow Taoist, don't panic, I am here." Four-colored true qi gushed out from the top of Xiaohua's head. Confucian cultivator Xiaohua flew out on his sword, promised, and waved the imperial star stab in his hand. A stream of light flashed in the air, stirring up 10,000 layers of vast qi waves, and immediately pierced into the black fog. Hiss! Hearing that the ghost judge was in pain, Confucian cultivator Xiaohua didn't hesitate. He opened his mouth, and the 5 qi thunder flew out, about to hit the ghost judge. Unfortunately, before the 5 qi righteous thunder could descend, the black gas within the domain flashed, and all of the lightning completely disappeared. Even the vast airwaves brought about by the star control spike also disappeared. When Confucian cultivator Xiaohua made his move, Xiaohua formed a seal with both hands, and the power of mountains fell towards the ghost judge. Buddhist seal? The ghost judge was slightly taken aback. Black gas flashed within the domain once again. However, although the black gas was tumbling, the Buddhist seal was still unable to be completely wiped out. 70% of the mountain's power still landed on the ghost judge. Swish! In the black fog, the strange golden chi rushed out again. Boom! With a loud sound, the power of mountains was split open. Of course, some of the Buddhist light in the power of mountains still fell on the ghost judge's body, and as if it was scalded by boiling water, the ghost judge's black fog tumbled violently, as if it was heavily injured. What a pity! Seeing this, Xiaohua sighed in his heart, If Buddha Subhuti was here, it would be a lot easier. It seems that at the last moment, I still have to wake Buddha Subhuti up. Looking at the ghost judge again, he saw that Xiao Hua actually knew Buddhist techniques. Although he didn't suffer any serious injuries, he still couldn't help but become angry and shouted, "Damn it, damn it, damn it. Duanmu Liangxing, since you want to die, this official will help you. Although it's a bit troublesome to get the permitha from your corpse, but, what's going on?" Not waiting for the ghost judge to finish speaking, the chain that was still in the air suddenly trembled, almost breaking out of his control. Without hesitation, the ghost judge controlled the black fog to fall on the chains. Then, several golden lights once again rushed out from the black fog, separately piercing into Xiao Hua's golden body. Under this attack, Xiao Hua's body was once again torn open with several wounds. Although the ghost judge, and the ghost weapon, the heavenly, Tuzes and the earth, the heavenly, the little white dragon roared in anger, but no matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free from the ghost judge's control. The ghost judge's, was the ghost judge's and soul cultivator Xiao Hua's nemesis. Puff puff. Soul cultivator Xiao Hua couldn't break free of this shackles, but with a push of his hands, the shaman codex fell below him. Countless green seal characters rushed up from the shaman codex, and soul cultivator Xiao Hua's body suddenly exploded, turning into fist-sized green seal characters. These green seal characters let out an earth-shattering sound, like a giant moving a mountain, or a giant chasing the sun. Ping ping ping. Amidst this sound, the underworld fruit that had fallen into the dark cloud earlier suddenly flew out and fell into the green seal characters. Ooh! Like a river overturning the sea, an illusion of the underworld fruit unexpectedly appeared in the dark cloud. Xiao Hua clenched his teeth and held on. The golden light pierced his body full of holes, and the chains were about to tear his soul apart. But at this moment, the soul cultivator Xiao Hua's movement gave him a stroke of luck. Scholar Xiao Hua had fallen into the bottleneck of the heavenly heart realm and couldn't enter the heavenly soul realm for a long time. He couldn't step into the heavenly soul realm from the soul warrior realm, so Xiao Hua had always felt that he was missing an opportunity. But when he saw the illusion of the underworld fruit, and then thought of the underworld fruit's help to soul cultivator and the ghost judge's method of attacking souls, how could Xiao Hua not understand that if he wanted to enter the heavenly soul realm with his soul cultivation method, he would have to rely on the netherworld qi, or the blood sea water? Xiao Hua understood, and so did the soul cultivator Xiao Hua. The two characters netherworld and netherworld flew out from the Magus Codex and fell into the green seal characters that Xiao Hua had transformed into. Two earth-shattering sounds resonated in the entire mysterious dark cloud. Along with these sounds, the soul cultivator Xiao Hua's body slowly came out again. At the same time, Xiao Hua's spirit seized this opportunity to draw the blood sea water from the inside of the space. He wanted to communicate with the netherworld blue sky in the mysterious dark cloud. But before he could draw the blood sea water from the inside of the space, Xiao Hua opened his mouth, and the blood sea water fell into his body out of thin air. The sea of blood rushed into soul cultivator Xiao Hua's body. Soul cultivator Xiao Hua's body flickered continuously, and the invisible barrier that was blocking the sky of hearts suddenly disappeared. A powerful suction force was generated from the sky of soul formation, forcibly pulling soul cultivator Xiao Hua into the sky of soul formation. When Xiao Hua entered the heavenly soul realm, the two characters netherworld and netherworld immediately flashed with green light, and an indescribable wave was generated from the inside of the space and fell into Xiao Hua's hand. As Xiao Hua's hands danced, his body flashed and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already outside the mysterious dark cloud. Soul cultivator Xiao Hua came out of the mysterious dark cloud. Without saying anything, he waved his hands and grabbed the chain that he didn't even dare to touch before. Immediately, a tremendous force was transmitted from his hands, and the chain shook violently. Not only did the sawteeth disappear, the chain also gradually turned into a belt and fell towards Xiao Hua's hand. The ghost judge sensed the tremendous force transmitted from the soul-capturing chain and couldn't help but be shocked. This is the Netherworld's origin power? You? How can you have the Netherworld's origin power? Not only this. Today, this young master will show you the power of my Duanmu family. Xiaohua's soul was almost scattered, but he still remembered to frame Duanmu Liangxing. When his malevolent face appeared, he shouted loudly, "Suppress!" Wu! But inside the dark domain, a vast and unparalleled qi rushed out from Xiaohua's mouth, and 6 cauldron-like objects flew out with the power to suppress everything. 9 cauldrons? The ghost judge was completely dumbfounded. He almost didn't think and even abandoned the soul-capturing chain. The black fog flashed, and he teleported into the light hole. Kaka, at this time, you still want to escape from my Duanmu family? The green-robed Xiaohua's voice came from who knows where, and a layer of 2-colored spirit fire spread out in a net in front of the light hole. The ghost judge was shocked by the green-robed Xiaohua. He didn't think that there would be an invisible thing in his domain that he didn't know about. However, there was no time for him to think too much at this moment. Xiaohua used all of his methods. Just this spiritual fire touched his black fog, and the black fog quickly melted away, scaring the ghost magistrate into spitting out several streams of golden qi in succession to extinguish this spiritual fire. But just as he was about to use the golden qi to extinguish the spirit fire, wang! With a rumbling sound, the 6 cauldrons released a suppressive power that the ghost judge couldn't resist, and firmly trapped him in the air. 9 cauldrons shake fate, 6 cauldrons calm the world. Xiaohua said coldly, "A ghost dares to slander my Duanmu family, you really deserve to die." "You? When did your Duanmu family have 6 cauldrons?" The ghost judge could no longer form a ghost, and could only turn into black fog and float in the air. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes as he watched the 6 cauldrons release an overwhelming aura to suppress the ghost, and his heart finally relaxed. Although he didn't know how to use the 6 cauldrons, he was used to using the innate divine restriction, and controlling the 6 cauldrons to form a suppressive force wasn't difficult. Looking at the ugly state of the ghost, he laughed coldly and said, "Zhu Zi, Xing Zi, and Sun Zi, the 3 saints' wooden statues could suppress you. My Duanmu family's 6 cauldrons can naturally suppress you. I still need to use these 6 cauldrons to refine you." Ha! The ghost judge didn't know if he was bluffing or had other tricks up his sleeve, but he laughed loudly and said, "Duanmu Liangxing, you really overestimate yourself. If this official wasn't injured by the 3 saints, if this official wasn't ambushed by your Prometha, even if you used these 6 cauldrons, you still wouldn't be able to suppress this official. As for refining this official, don't worry about it. This official should have cultivated to the point of turning from yin to yang. Other than your Prometha, it's impossible for you to kill this official." Fall. Of course, Xiaohua didn't know how to use the 6 cauldrons to refine the ghost, but he laughed coldly. Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's 5 qi righteous thunder fell and hit the ghost judge's body. Sure enough, within the black fog, there was a faint golden light flashing, and the black fog didn't seem to reduce as it rolled. Ah! The ghost judge laughed coldly, and golden aura flew out from the rolling black fog. Not only did it rush into the 5 qi righteous thunder, it even hit the 6 cauldrons. The 5 qi righteous thunder was actually scattered, and the 6 cauldrons were hit to the point that they were on the verge of collapsing. However, fortunately, the 6 cauldrons weren't comparable to the 3 saints' wooden statues, and after a series of loud sounds, they didn't suffer any damage. What's more, what was suppressing the ghost judge was the fortune and overwhelming aura of the 6 cauldrons. These things weren't something that the golden aura could defeat, so although Xiaohua was in a sorry state, the ghost judge couldn't escape from the suppression. "It's hard to use Prometha now, perhaps I can only wait until daybreak?" Xiaohua bit his lips, looking at the somewhat scattered 6 cauldrons and the complacent black fog, and secretly pondered, "Perhaps I can only use the demonic blade? Perhaps I can let Buddha Subhuti come out of seclusion? Damn it! What exactly is the golden aura inside the ghost judge's body?" Xiaohua naturally knew that the demonic blade would damage his mind, so he wouldn't use it easily, and Buddha Subhuti's seclusion was also extremely crucial, but now that things had come to this, he had no other choice. Thinking, the demonic aura on Xiao Hua's left arm slightly swelled. Roar! At this time, the roar of a wandering ghost came from afar, causing Xiao Hua's heart to move, and his gaze fell on the faint fog below the 6 cauldrons. Collect. Xiao Hua's eyes slightly narrowed, and his mind felt as if a pair of large hands were falling on the ghost judge. The novel The Story of the Cultivation God will have even more fresh content on the official WeChat platform, and at the same time, there will be a 100% lottery gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click on the plus sign at the top right to add friend, search for the public account, Kdred, and follow it. Hurry up. Chapter 3860. Haha, Duanmu Liangxing, this official really admires you. You are really indulging in fantasy. The ghost judge mocks. Although this official is a ghost, this official is not something that a Confucian cultivator like you can capture. Not good. The ghost judge is naturally not like those ownerless wandering souls. As long as he struggles, Xiao Hua's mind will not easily capture him into the inside of the space, not to mention that this ghost judge's strength far surpasses Xiao Hua's. However, contrary to the judge of ghost and Xiao Hua's expectations, wherever Xiao Hua's mind passed, the judge of ghost's fog, which had not moved in the slightest, as steady as a boulder, began to slowly move towards Xiao Hua. Although the fog was struggling with all its might, it was as if there was a string pulling it, and it began to move faster and faster. Xiao Hua suddenly feels that the fog's movement is not being pulled by his mind. Instead, he feels that the fog is taking the initiative to rush into his space. In an instant, Xiao Hua's heart is startled. This is not the ghost judge's scheme? Thinking of this, how can Xiao Hua still dare to capture this fog? He hastily retreats, preparing to dodge. But in the blink of an eye, the ghost judge suddenly accelerates, not allowing Xiao Hua to withdraw his mind, and like lightning, rushes into Xiao Hua's space. Xiao Hua is greatly alarmed. His body is already riddled with scars, and now his heart is as cold as ice. The ghost judge also lets out a heart-wrenching scream, looking even more desperate than Xiao Hua. The instant the black fog rushed into Xiao Hua's body, Xiao Hua's heart truly died like ashes. After scheming for so long, he still fell into the scheme of the ghost judge. However, he still wanted to fight to the death. He desperately pulled the black fog and flew towards his own space. He understood very well that as long as he fell into his space, any ghost or judge would be at his mercy. However, Xiao Hua didn't think that the ghost judge would give him this opportunity. However, the strange thing was that the black fog didn't resist at all. Under the tremendous force of his mind, the black fog immediately crashed into the inside of Xiao Hua's space. What made Jade Archive Xiao Hua even more shocked was that the moment the black fog fell into the inside of the space, a formless golden dot fell out of the black fog. The black fog was like a piece of clothing. After stripping it off, Xiao Hua could see its curvaceous body. An extremely familiar feeling came from that golden point. Gold origin. Xiao Hua suddenly realized. Without any hesitation, he immediately used the Big Dipper God Fist in midair. The metal origin changed direction and rushed into Xiao Hua's bones. After the bones were tempered, there were naturally meridians, spiritual fire, and so on. Xiao Hua was in pain, but he was also enjoying the joy of advancing. The metal origin the thing that Xiao Hua yearned for even in his dreams. Now, it actually appeared in the clone of an underworld judge. It really made Xiao Hua surprised, very surprised. However, when the metal origin rushed into the space, waves of origin fluctuations spread throughout the entire space. Waves of mountain roars and tsunami waves were produced in the space. Layers of starry sky rippled in Xiao Hua's heart. Xiao Hua already understood the ins and outs of the matter. This metal origin was the origin of the world. Even the ghosts of the underworld should be able to use it. Therefore, when the clone of the underworld judge came out of the underworld, it was discovered by Zhu Zi, Zheng Zi, and Sun Zi for some unknown reason. The 3 literary sages naturally didn't allow the ghosts of the underworld to harass the hidden immortal continent. Therefore, a battle broke out. In the end, although the three literary sages suppressed the ghost, they couldn't completely eliminate it. In the end, the three literary sages could only leave behind wooden statues and wills, and even their own children to complete the heavy task of suppressing the ghost. Of course, when the wills of the three literary sages joined hands, they were able to eliminate 70% of the underworld judge's ghost. The reason why they couldn't completely eliminate the ghost back then was definitely because of the metal origin. However, today, the ghost's body gradually formed and it also had some success in refining the metal origin. It was preparing to break out of the restriction when the heavenly dog eclipse of the moon was at its densest. Of course, this ghost's plan was extremely successful. The ghost formation of the 9 underworlds origin drove the netherworld chi and wandering souls to destroy the underworld judge's body. The metal origin of the fire origin destroyed the wooden statues and wills of the three literary sages. If the underworld judge could stop at this moment and return in time, Xiaohua definitely wouldn't have stopped it. In fact, Xiaohua wouldn't have been able to stop it. However, the underworld judge's greed didn't change. After obtaining the metal origin, it still coveted the permit. It didn't care that it only had 30% of its strength left and wanted to use its domain and ghost tool to obtain the Permitha. However, it just so happened that it encountered Xiaohua, a Taoist cultivator who wasn't a Confucian cultivator like Duanmu Liangxing. It absolutely couldn't imagine how complex and profound Xiaohua's knowledge was. It also didn't think that Xiaohua would have a space that others definitely wouldn't have. Of course, what the underworld judge didn't expect the most was that Xiaohua's space already had the fire origin and earth origin. Under the influence of the two origin powers, the metal origin in its body was no longer under its control. It took the initiative to enter Xiaohua's space. By the time it realized that something was wrong, it was already unable to escape its fate. At this time, it was already unable to separate the metal origin from its body. It was said that success was due to Xiaohe and defeat was due to Xiaohe. It was nothing more than this. It was destroyed by the metal origin that it obtained and involuntarily fell into the inside of Xiaohua's space. Even if its strength was exceedingly high, once it fell into the inside of the space, wasn't it still up to Xiaohua's words? After an unknown amount of time, Xiaohua collected the metal origin. After thinking through all the causes and effects, he couldn't help but sigh inwardly. However, at this time, he couldn't afford to slack off. Just as he was fighting a life and death battle with the underworld judge, the 9 ghost caves were still erupting endlessly. There was still an endless stream of wandering souls rushing out. However, there was a faint outline of the pitch-black blood moon in the night sky. The lunar eclipse seemed to be coming to an end. Let the test come a little more fiercely. Xiaohua laughed loudly and unconsciously raised his head to let out a long roar. The wounds that were pierced by the metal origin were previously difficult to heal. However, after Xiaohua used the metal origin to temper his body, these wounds had already healed. Xiaohua had gotten rid of the great enemy in his heart, and his entire body was relaxed. He raised his eyes to look at the outline of the blood moon and released his consciousness. Now that he had the underworld's yuan qi in his mind, it was even easier to collect the netherworld qi and wandering souls that were spewing out. The ghost qi that was spewing out from the 9 ghost caves, the wandering souls that surged out, and even the stranger things that came later, didn't even touch the ground before they were immediately collected by Xiaohua into the inside of the space. They didn't cause any damage to Wuyuan County, Jingyue County, and Fanchong County. After a long time, the blood-red moonlight gradually appeared, and the yang qi overflowed again. Xiaohua's body could feel the obvious Tai Yin qi, and among the 9 ghost caves, 3 of them glowed with Buddha light and Aoran qi. Gradually, the qi of the netherworld was retracted, and the wandering souls started to decrease. Another hour passed, and the sky suddenly became pitch black. This darkness was not as dark as the underworld judges, but the temperature of the night sky didn't drop. Xiaohua understood that this was the darkness before dawn. The night of the 15th of July finally passed. The wandering souls no longer appeared, and the other 6 ghost caves no longer spewed out netherworld qi. Even if the 3 ghost caves still had some ghost chi, it was nothing under the yang chi. Fellow Taoist Green Robe. Xiaohua was really tired. He collected his consciousness and flew down to the undulating mountain range below him. He raised his voice and asked, Wuyuan County, Jingyue County, and Fanchang County can be put away. I wonder how the lives of the millions of villagers in these 3 towns are? Green-robed Xiaohua didn't answer, but in the night sky, rays of light appeared one after another, and layers of formations rippled. After a few moments, green-robed Xiaohua landed beside Xiaohua with the Kunlun mirror in his hand. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and looked at the town in the dark night. At this time, the town was so quiet and there wasn't a trace of sound. The candles that could be seen at night, at this time, it was an extravagant hope. Fellow Taoist, Green-robed Xiaohua said in a low voice, if I guessed correctly, more than 300,000 villagers died. Those souls were sucked into your space along with the netherworld energy. Hiss, more than 300,000? Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air and said involuntarily, how could there be so many? There aren't many left. Green-robed Xiaohua sighed. Wuyuan County, Jingyue County, and Fanchang County, these 3 towns have about 1 million people. These people are just like what Zhu Qing said, they are already on the verge of death. Even if tonight's 100 Ghost Parade didn't happen, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to live for long. Moreover, the ghost that appeared tonight is the underworld's judge. This guy's death chi is really powerful. Once a mortal comes into contact with this death chi, their soul will immediately leave their body. This is also because fellow Taoist asked I to set up a large array in these towns in advance. If it wasn't for this array, not to mention 300,000 people, even 1 million people wouldn't be able to escape tonight's massacre. Coo coo coo. All of a sudden, the lonely sound of a rooster crowing rang out from nowhere, breaking the silence of the night. This sound was exceptionally loud in the night sky, and at the same time, it was exceptionally warm. I bet. Green-robed Xiaohua said with a smile, this rooster won't live past today. If someone eats him, then it's good. Xiaohua said meaningfully, just like you and me, even if we have to sacrifice some, it will be worth it if we can save some people. Fine, fine. The one who will be sacrificed is not you. Green-robed Xiaohua waved his hand that Xiaohua couldn't see and said, quickly let I go back, there are a lot of disciples waiting at home. Hee, I'll have to trouble fellow Taoist. Xiaohua smiled and stored the formless nascent soul into his lower danton. These several 100,000 merit points have already landed on fellow Taoist's head. That's right, fellow Taoist, the light hole that the ghost judge came out of disappeared after fellow Taoist collected that guy. Since the 3 literary sages' wooden statues fell inside, I'm afraid there's something fishy about it. Green-robed Xiaohua, who was as greedy as Xiaohua, didn't forget to tell Xiaohua before entering the space. The novel The Story of the Cultivation God will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform. At the same time, there's also a 100% chance of a lottery gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click on the plus sign at the top right to add friend, search for the public account, Kdred, and follow. Hurry up. Chapter 3861. How could Xiaohua not know what the green-robed Xiaohua was thinking? So he laughed and said, rest assured, green-robed fellow Taoist, even if you didn't say it, the scholarly fellow Taoist would be worried. That wooden statue had the will of the literary sage, so it should contain the secrets of the scholarly cultivators. Moreover, Sage Zhu message clearly stated that the wooden statue of the ancestral shrine is of the Xiantian realm, and the clan records are of the later generations. The ancestral shrines of the Zhu, Xing, and Sun families have long disappeared. If I'm not mistaken, they should be in this light cave. Alas, suppressing the underworld's magistrate in the ancestral shrine, this is really unimaginable. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, how could I believe it? Xiaohua smiled and landed on the ground. This was a dilapidated temple. The previous battle had already torn down this small temple beyond recognition, leaving only rubble at the foot of the mountain. Xiaohua's divine sense swept over and his brows unconsciously wrinkled because there was no trace of the ancestral shrine in his divine sense. The light cave from before had disappeared without a trace, as if it didn't exist at all. What do you think, fellow Taoist? Xiaohua released the scholarly cultivator Xiaohua. Xiaohua sensed for a moment and shook his head. Previously, there was a strong righteous qi on the wooden statue, but now I can't sense it at all. I'm afraid the 3 literary sages did something. Yes, there must be a restriction. Xiaohua nodded. Otherwise, it would be impossible to suppress the ghost, and it would be impossible to hide from those who persecuted the Zhu, Zheng, and Sun families. Since there is a restriction, it should be related to the Buddhist sect. Xiaohua smiled and said, I'll entrust my happiness to you, fellow Taoist. After saying that, Xiaohua returned to his middle dantian. Xiaohua used the heaven's eye again and used the escape technique to escape underground. Knowing that the ancestral shrines of the 3 families were definitely here, Xiaohua carefully searched the area. Even though he had the heaven's eye ability, it still took him the time to eat a meal before he found a strange little in the depths of the ground, as if he was looking for a needle in a haystack. There was a tiny bit of psyche power and a wisp of noble spirit on it, but it was really insignificant in the underground. Seeing such a small, Xiaohua understood that this was the Shumi Buddhist formation of the Buddhist sect. He pinched his chin and looked at the motionless that didn't even flicker with a faint radiance. He thought to himself, with my cultivation base, breaking this Shumi Buddhist formation isn't too difficult. However, the problem was that if he was not careful, he might destroy the ancestral hall inside. This was disrespect to Zhu Zi, Xing Zi, and Sun Zi, the 3 sages of literature. Moreover, how could the Buddhist formation that the 3 sages of literature had set up together to suppress the ghostly magistrate be so easy to break? The chances of being careless were higher. If I want to obtain the true heavenly book insight, I'm afraid I can't be so reckless. The ancestral tree is like the innate qi, and the family tree is made of silk and silk. The first sentence clearly meant that there was Xiantian true qi in the wooden statue of the ancestral shrine. However, this Xiantian true qi, what was the use of it? Did it have anything to do with the heavenly book? Could it be that the true enlightenment of the heavenly books was this innate true qi? As for the second sentence, did it mean that there was silk and silk hidden in the family tree? The silk and silk contain the family tree of the younger generation? Silk and silk? Family tree? Or perhaps, thinking of this, Xiaohua's eyes suddenly lit up. Almost in disbelief, he took out the book that he had obtained from the old woman of the Zhu family in Jianghu City from the space. This book was originally made of silk, and it corresponded to the so-called family tree silk and silk. However, there was no family tree written in it. When the book made of silk and silk was taken out of the space, it immediately flashed with a faint Buddhist light. Similarly, the small dot also flashed with the same rhythm of Buddhist light. They attracted each other and the silk and silk flew towards the small. Great! Xiaohua clapped his hands and praised from the bottom of his heart, immortal grass with others, leaving fragrance in my hand. At that time, my cultivation base was low and I didn't think about the heavenly book insight. However, because of a moment of kindness, I broke the curse of the old woman of the Zhu family and obtained this silk and silk. I really didn't expect that I would be able to use it today. And after so many years, the family of the old woman of the Zhu family in Jianghu City should have already turned into yellow soil. Just when Xiaohua's heart was filled with joy, the book gradually unfolded and turned into a cloud-like silk and covered the small. However, after covering it, no matter if it was the silk or the dot, there was no movement at all. No, it seems that something else is missing. Xiaohua looked at everything in front of him and secretly calculated in his heart. Yes, this is silk and silk. There should be a family tree, and even, there should be descendants. Xiaohua smiled and said, it seems that the task of opening the ancestral shrine will fall on the heads of Zhu Cheng and the other Confucian family descendants. Thinking of this, Xiaohua stretched out his hand and collected the silk and turned it into the book again and put it into the space. Then he escaped from the ground and rushed into the air. At this time, dawn was breaking in the east and a fresh breath filled the entire sky. Although there was no trace of green beyond the three towns, the faint vitality after the wind and rain was already in sight. Cough, cough. This was the sound of the old woman coughing weakly in the morning. Creak. This was the sound of the woman gently pushing open the wooden door. Although this sound was accompanied by the woman's slight sigh and even grief, it was still the sound of life. Ooh. Even more were the sounds of people crying after discovering that their family members had died. The grief of the living was the remembrance of the dead. There were also many sounds that were born at dawn. These sounds fell into Xiao Hua's ears one by one. Among them, there was joy, sorrow, worry, and worry. No matter what kind of emotion the sound was, it made Xiao Hua feel a sense of joy. It made him feel that last night's life and death battle was worth it, that last night's life and death situation was meaningful. When Xiao Hua's figure flew to the sky above Zhujia village, under the bright sunlight, Zhujia village was actually a field of silence. Not even a single person's shadow could be seen. Xiao Hua's soul sense swept over and immediately understood. As the saying goes, the ignorant are fearless. The people in the three towns didn't know what happened. They didn't know that last night they had already experienced a life and death situation that they had never seen before. Therefore, they woke up early in the morning as usual and prepared to find food to eat. They prepared to struggle through the next day. Everyone in Zhujia village knew of the dangers of the night, so no one dared to rashly come out. Zhujia village's restriction was still open as they quietly waited for Xiao Hua's message. Dang dang dang. Xiao Hua's mood was extremely good. He laughed and asked loudly. Confucius said, "A friend from afar is coming, isn't it also good?" Taoist Xiao? You've returned? An unusually surprised voice came from within Zhujia village. Immediately after, a young man stepped on a cloud and rushed into the air. Zhu Xiang? Seeing this young man's appearance, Xiao Hua was slightly stunned. However, in an instant, Xiao Hua understood something. He cupped his hands and said, "Congratulations, fellow Taoist Zhu." This person was naturally Zhu Cheng, who had already taken the rejuvenation pill. He looked extremely similar to the dead Zhu Xiang. Seeing Xiao Hua cupped his hands, Zhu Cheng hurriedly bowed in return and said, "AI, this one still has to thank Benefactor. If it wasn't for Benefactor, how could this one be like this?" Taoist Xiao. While speaking, the group of Zhujia village disciples all flew into the air and followed behind Zhu Cheng. They bowed and said, "Many thanks to Benefactor for saving our Zhujia village disciples again." "No need to thank me, no need to thank me." Xiao Hua helped everyone up and was about to speak again when he suddenly felt that something was wrong. When he looked at everyone, he saw that everyone's eyes were filled with a kind of burning desire. Xiao Hua immediately understood. He hurriedly waved his hands and said, "Fellow Taoists, the rejuvenation pill that this one gave to fellow Taoist Jew was something this one obtained by chance during an auction. This one also thought that it was a simple pill and didn't pay much attention to it. Who would have thought that fellow Taoist Jew would actually become so young? This is really unexpected." That's right, it was really unexpected. This was the inner voice of all the Zhujia village disciples. In just one night, all the Zhujia village disciples saw with their own eyes the head of the Zhujia village, who was on the verge of death, turn from old to young bit by bit. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they would definitely think that Zhu Cheng was Zhu Xiang reborn. Xiao Hua's words were obviously perfunctory. At least he didn't show that kind of unexpected surprise. Obviously, he knew the effects of this rejuvenation pill. However, since Xiao Hua didn't say anything, everyone couldn't say anything either. They could only stand up with some regret. "Benefactor?" Zhu Cheng said in a low voice, "How is it?" "Everything is already in the past," Xiao Hua said with a smile. "Moreover, your Zhu family, Zheng family, and Sun family don't need to guard the ghost cave anymore." Really? Zhu Cheng was overjoyed. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and replied cautiously, "This one thinks so, but this one can't guarantee it. If it's possible, you three families should guard this place for a period of time. Of course, This one thinks that there's no need to use your life to strengthen the seal. That's good, that's good. Zhu Qing immediately thought of Zhu Xiang and couldn't help but shed tears. After a moment, Zhu Qing came to his senses and hurriedly said with a smile, "Benefactor, please come with me. This one doesn't know how to thank you." Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "The great calamity has just passed. Within the 3 towns, more than 300,000 people died. If the remaining people don't have food to fill their stomachs, they might not be able to survive tonight. Although Fengxiang country has food for disaster relief, it might not be able to come in the next few days. Fellow Immortal Zhu, disaster relief is the most important thing today." Yes, this one understands. Zhu Cheng hurriedly said, "This one has already arranged everything last night. My Zhu family has a very good relationship with the government of the 3 towns. This one will send Zhu family disciples to Jingyue County and Fanchang County. This one will personally go to Wuyuan County. If Benefactor has time, you might as well go with this one. This time, this one will definitely spread Benefactor's name everywhere." "That's not appropriate." Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand and said, "This one is a Dao sect cultivator. If my reputation is too great, it will definitely attract the attention of the Immortal Palace. So it's like this?" Zhu Qing thought for a moment and said with a smile, "Benefactor, you're thinking too much. Benefactor, at this time, not only should you not hide your cultivation and merit, you should also expand your reputation. Especially this kind of merit of saving people, it should be even more publicized. The novel The Legend of the Cultivation God will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform. At the same time, there will be a 100% chance of drawing a big prize for everyone. Now open WeChat, click the plus sign at the top right to add friend, search for the public account Kdred, and follow it. Hurry up!" Chapter 3862. Why is that? Xiao Hua was stunned. He had always been careful in doing things. Even if he did something good, he didn't dare to leave his name because he didn't want to attract the attention of the Immortal Palace. Even now, after the Immortal Palace had conquered the Black Wind Ridge, he still wanted to hide his cultivation. But he never thought that this Zhu Qing would actually advise him to show his strength and not to hide it. However, Zhu Qing is the descendant of Zhu Zi and the head of a scholarly family. His vision must be higher than others. Since he said so, there must be some truth to it. Xiao Hua really wanted to hear it. He. Zhu Qing said with a smile, "Benefactor, please wait a moment. I will tell you in detail after I send the disaster relief people out." Xiao Hua nodded. "In addition, you don't need to go to Wuyuan County. Let someone else go. This Xiao and you have another important thing to do." "Okay, this one understands." Zhu Qing didn't have any objection to Xiao Hua's assignment. After sending the people to bring the food, he said with a smile, "Benefactor, what's the matter? Does your Zhu family have a genealogy?" Xiao Hua asked. "Of course." Zhu Qing nodded. "Every family has a genealogy. Although my Zhu family has declined, this genealogy has never been lost." "Okay, you go and get it. Then follow this one to find Zheng and Sun Qing," Xiao Hua urged. Zhu Cheng was a bit confused, but he didn't ask and flew into the Zhu family village. After a while, Zhu Qing came back with a red booklet and respectfully handed it to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua took it and roughly looked at it. He saw that this genealogy was written by Zhu Zi. Inside were the names of the Zhu family's children. Zhu Cheng and Zhu Xiang's names were on the last page, and the last one was Zhu Hua. He should be the youngest son of Zhu Cheng. Take it first and follow this one to find Sun Qing and Zheng, Xiao Hua said as he returned the genealogy to Zhu Cheng. Zhu Cheng took it and carefully put it away, nodding, "Benefactor, please." Zhu Cheng flew forward while Xiao Hua followed behind him. A moment later, Xiao Hua asked, "Fellow Taoist Zhu, earlier you said that I shouldn't conceal my cultivation level. Why is that? Don't tell me you don't know that the Immortal Palace will use some methods to suppress our Taoist cultivators when their cultivation reaches a certain level?" "Benefactor, have you heard of the Buddhist sect?" Zhu Qing asked with a smile. Xiao Hua nodded and said, Of course I know. However, the Buddhist sect has the Great Thunderclap Temple in the Western Paradise. Our Tao sect doesn't have such a strong backing. What about the Longevity Town in Yu Province? Zhu Cheng said with a smile. It said that the Buddhism sect is going to build a 99 feet tall golden body of Guanyin Bodhisattva there. This is something that the Immortal Palace can't tolerate. Similarly, the Big Leiyin Temple can't interfere. Why is the golden body already there? Even the Immortal Palace doesn't dare to easily topple it. Naturally, Xiaohua also knew about this matter. With Zhu Cheng's reminder, Xiaohua immediately came to a realization. What fellow immortal Zhu said is what the people's hearts desire? That's right. We Confucian cultivators have always emphasized the hearts of the people and the will of the people. To put it bluntly, the noble spirit is also the human aura that has been deposited in the world. All Confucian cultivators who want to cultivate to the great Confucian realm of the fifth stage of essence energy have to experience the world of mortals. They have to comprehend the origin and application of the noble spirit in the world of mortals. Therefore, Confucian cultivators know the importance of the hearts of the people the most. Zhu Cheng nodded and said, the Buddhist sect didn't invest a single Buddhist cultivator in the Longevity Town. They only relied on the piety of countless good men and women to build a 99 feet tall golden body of Guanyin Bodhisattva. Isn't it because the Immortal Palace has misgivings about the hearts of the good men and women in the hidden Immortal Continent? Benefactor is admittedly a Tao sect cultivator, but if you have accumulated a lot of merits and millions, tens of millions of ordinary people are deeply grateful to you, do you think the Immortal Palace will risk universal condemnation and kill Benefactor? In particular, you're just a lone cultivator. Even if your cultivation is extremely high, you're still different from the Buddhist sect. The Immortal Palace won't be afraid of you overturning the heavens. So that's how it is, I understand now. Xiaohua was truly convinced. The vision of the family head of a Confucian cultivator family was truly extraordinary. The depth of his consideration of a problem was also not something that ordinary people could reach. Also, Zhu Cheng continued, as long as a person lives in this world, no matter how many good things you do, it's impossible to satisfy everyone. There will definitely be people who say good things about you, and some people who say bad things about you. Since that's the case, why should you care about what others say about you? Just do what you have to do. Benefactor, don't you know the cultivation methods of Confucian cultivators? I'm sure you've also read the ancient books of Confucian cultivators. Benefactor, you should also know about the so-called art of alliance and collaboration. Zhu Cheng continued to explain, it's the same principle as what I just said. Whether it's a Tao sect cultivator, a Buddhist sect arhat, or a Confucian cultivator, no matter how high or low their cultivation is, they must have enemies and old friends in this world. Cultivators who don't have enemies can't exist in this world. Similarly, cultivators who don't have close friends can't exist in this world. Since that's the case, why should Benefactor hide your cultivation? You only need to ally with your old friends and attack your enemies. That's all. Benefactor, the Immortal Palace you mentioned is actually not a monolithic entity. Although it's controlled by the school of the military, the Confucians, the Mahists, and the legalists all have literary sages serving in it. Therefore, there may be conflicts. Benefactor, as long as you ally with some people and repel others, even if your cultivation is beyond the tolerance level of the Immortal Palace, what danger will you be in? Even the immortal emperor of the Immortal Palace sometimes has no choice. In particular, everything depends on the specific situation. Previously, the Confucian cultivators and the Buddhist sect were like family. Of course, the Taoist cultivators couldn't show their faces. Benefactor, if you show your cultivation, you'll be courting death. Now, the situation between the Confucian cultivators and the Buddhist sect is tense. The primordial chaos ancestor of the Taoist sect is restless after being released. The Immortal Palace can't control the primordial chaos ancestor, so the Immortal Palace may need another Taoist cultivator to restrain the primordial chaos ancestor and use another Taoist cultivator to disperse the pressure of the Buddhist sect. Therefore, the higher your cultivation is, the more you'll be favored by the Immortal Palace, and the more important you'll be. Of course, this is what I see as a bystander. It may not be right. Finally, Zhu Cheng said, moreover, in the 3 continents, the most guaranteed thing is strength. As the saying goes, there's always someone better than you. If benefactor provokes too much, maybe the Immortal Palace's Almighty will find you unpleasant and kill you in an instant. Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart trembled. Zhu Cheng's point of view was absolutely subversive to him. He really didn't expect that having a high cultivation would have such benefits. But thinking about it, it was normal. What was the Peng Lai Immortal Realm for? Wasn't it a place where the Taoist cultivators of the 5th level and above could feel at ease? If the Immortal Palace didn't have to worry about anything, wouldn't it be easier to just kill all the Taoist cultivators? Benefactor? While Xiaohua was pondering, Zhu Cheng said in a low voice, "It used to be not far away." Xiaohua came back to his senses and nodded. What fellow immortal Zhu said is quite profound. I have to think about it again. Yes. Zhu Cheng said with a smile, if it's not about you, anyone can say it. But as long as it's about you, you have to be overcautious and think thrice before you act. Benefactor, you have your own plans. My words are only for reference. Used to be a butcher. The marketplace where he lived was full of filth. Normally, there would be a lot of mosquitoes and flies. But this morning, not even an ant could be seen. On the narrow street, there were only weeping sounds, and even these weeping sounds were weak. Used. Naturally, without Xiaohua's instructions, Zhu Cheng had already released his divine sense to find Used and then whispered to him. Old Master Zhu? Hearing Zhu Cheng's voice, Used immediately jumped up from the ground. Looking at his wife and dog who were still sleeping soundly, he prepared to go out. Unexpectedly, just as he moved, his wife immediately noticed. Her thin and weak body slightly raised, and she called out in an extremely low voice, "Dog's father? What are you doing? Last night, didn't you already go out? After coming back, you didn't sleep for the whole night. Why don't you sleep a little longer?" Used was slightly stunned because when Used went out last night, his wife didn't make a sound. Even when he kissed her and dog, she didn't move at all. Used always thought that his wife was sleeping soundly the whole night. But he didn't expect that she knew his every move. Dog's mother? Used's nose twitched. It was said that husband and wife were birds in the same forest. When disaster struck, they would fly away separately. But now, facing life and death, his wife still knew his heart and didn't make him worry about her. He whispered, "Since you're awake, you should also get up. This is old Master Zhu of Zhu Clan Manor. Last night's matter is already in the past. I won't leave you again." Really? When Yu's wife heard this, she was happy in her heart. However, she still slowly got up. Then, she came to her senses and hurriedly touched her thin cheeks with her withered hands. She hurriedly said, "Old Master Zhu is here. This concubine's appearance. Father." Maybe it was the two people's voices that woke Dog up, or maybe it was the empty stomach that woke Dog up from hunger. Dog opened his confused eyes and shouted, "I'm hungry." Rumble. Hearing the word, hungry, not to mention Dog's stomach, even Yu's stomachs growled. Hee, it's all this old man's fault. Outside the wooden door, Xiaohua's voice came. This old man was thinking of giving you pills, but forgot to give you food. But then again, looking at Yu's size, this old man doesn't think you're lacking food. Taoist Master Xiao. When Yust heard this, his face changed greatly from fright. He didn't care to say anything to his wife and hurriedly ran out of the house, shouting, "This little one kowtows in salute to Taoist Master. This little one has seen." When Yust saw Zhu Cheng's face, he was stunned again. He was somewhat confused. This was clearly Zhu Cheng, young Master Zhu. But why did Zhu Cheng say last night that young Master Zhu had already died in a ghost cave? Chapter 3863. This old man is Zhu Cheng. Zhu Cheng's face didn't have a trace of a smile. He only said indifferently, "But last night, this old man was bestowed by Taoist Master Xiao and was able to extend my lifespan." Zeng was shocked. He looked at Xiaohua with even more reverence and greeted Zhu Cheng. "This little one greets Master Zhu. Zeng, bring your family's big vat." Xiaohua smiled. "This old man will give you food to cook porridge for Go-er and your wife." "Good, good." Zeng laughed and hurriedly turned his head and shouted, "Go-er's mother, quickly come and greet Taoist Master Xiao." Saying that, Zeng went to get the big vat again. "No need to trouble yourself," Zhu Cheng said in a low voice. "Since Zeng is the descendant of a great scholar, he has a great relationship with my Zhu family. I didn't know about it before, but now that I know, how can I let them be in such a destitute situation? Although my Zhu family village isn't a luxurious house, it can still provide food for Brother Zeng's family." At this time, Zeng's wife came out holding Go. Seeing the sunlight flash, Zeng's wife's body slightly swayed, unable to support herself. Xiaohua hurriedly raised his hand to support her, and Zeng's wife shouted, "Thank you, Master Zhu, thank you, Master Zhu." Zeng opened his mouth, and his face showed a trace of embarrassment. He wanted to refuse, but looking at his wife's thin and weak body, and the child sticking out his tongue to lick his lips, he could only lower his head slightly. Xiaohua had already seen it, and said with a smile, "Zeng family and Zhu family were good friends, you don't need to doubt this point. Although there is no record of this in the books, think about it, if not for some things, how could your Zeng family and Zhu family be so close? How could your Zeng family's descendants and Zhu family's descendants have the same mission? Moreover, this old man might as well tell you that last night, at the critical moment, the wills left by Zeng Zi, Sun Zi, and Zhu Zi joined hands to fight against the enemy. Although they didn't let this old man pass any message to you, this old man thinks that if your three families can help each other, you will be able to accomplish your mission. Many thanks for your guidance, spiritual master." Seng Zeng's heart relaxed slightly and he bowed in thanks. In the past, perhaps you still had some doubts and couldn't let go of your face." Xiaohua smiled. "However, if you knew that your Zeng family, Sun family, and Zhu family's ancestral shrines were all together, you would no longer doubt this old man's words." "What, Taoist master? Is what you said true?" Not to mention the past, even Zhu Cheng was shocked. "Zeng, does your Zeng family have a genealogy?" Xiaohua didn't answer, but looked at Zeng and asked. Excitement appeared on Seng Zeng's face as he hurriedly said, Yes, please wait a moment." After saying that, Zeng rushed into the house and came out with a yellow genealogy book. When Xiaohua took the genealogy book and opened it, sure enough, the genealogy book was written in yellow handwriting. At the end was Zeng Yan and Zeng Yan. Presumably, Zeng Yan was Go-er's name. After reading it, Xiaohua returned the genealogy book to Zeng and said, "Take this thing first. When Zhu Cheng has settled your family, you will follow this old man to Jianghu County to find Sun Qing. Their genealogy book should be written in blue handwriting." Taking advantage of the time when Zhu Cheng called his family to pick up Zeng's family, Xiaohua took out the spirit jujube and gave it to Zeng's wife and Go. Then he looked at Go's muscles and bones with interest. Looking at Zeng's slightly eager eyes, Xiaohua smiled and dripped a drop of the spirit liquid refined by spiritual wisdom into Go's mouth. Seeing that Go's body was hot and dizzy, Xiaohua smiled and said, "Go's aptitude is limited. I'm afraid he won't be able to achieve much by practicing my Taoist cultivation method. This spirit awakening fluid can open Go-er's spiritual wisdom. If he reads books and practices Confucian cultivation, he will be able to reach the great Confucian realm." "Thank you, spiritual master." Go-er's mother had taken the spirit jujube and already had strength. Hearing Xiaohua's words, her face showed ecstasy. Tears dripped from her eyes, and she held her child and was about to kowtow. That ecstasy was even stronger than if she could survive. Zeng knew what his wife was thinking. Although he was a descendant of the Zeng family, he was a butcher after all and didn't know anything about economics. Now that he could hear Xiaohua's words, it was not only his fortune, but also the Zeng family's fortune. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Thank you, spiritual master." "Thank you, Master Zhu." Zhu Cheng hurriedly helped Zeng up, and his eyes flashed with a strange light. In fact, Xiaohua didn't need to personally check Go Er's aptitude. Just from Go Er's dull eyes, Zhu Cheng could see that Go Er's aptitude was mediocre. But after taking Xiaohua's spirit awakening fluid, Xiaohua actually concluded that Go Er could reach the Great Confucian realm, which really surprised Zhu Cheng. However, Zhu Cheng would never doubt Xiaohua's words. He couldn't help but think of his own child. Spiritual Master Xiao. Zhu Cheng slightly bit his lips and whispered, "My son." Before Zhu Cheng finished speaking, Xiaohua smiled and said, "Fellow Immortal Zhu, you have a son at an old age." Zhu Cheng is born with deficiencies. Although he is much smarter than others, his future achievements are limited. Take this spirit awakening fluid too. Sun Mi has filial piety, how can this old man not fulfill it? This is the rejuvenation pill, give it to your father to consume. Thank you, spiritual master, thank you, spiritual master. Sun Mi pulled Sun Qing up, carefully took the rejuvenation pill, and respectfully handed it to Sun Qing. Father, you've raised this boy for his entire life. Now, this boy is unable to repay you. This is the rejuvenation pill that I begged spiritual master Xiao to give. Father, please consume it. In the future, this boy will definitely show filial piety to father and revive our Sun family's business. Good, good. Sun Qing took the rejuvenation pill, but didn't consume it. He wiped his tears and said, "Now that spiritual master's matter is important, father will accept this pill first and consume it later." "Yes, father." Sun Mi naturally obeyed his father's instructions, but Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Don't. If you consume it now. I'm not here, but it's easy for something to happen." Sun Qing naturally didn't know how many disasters and karma the rejuvenation pill had caused. However, since it was Xiaohua's idea, and also his boy's filial piety, Sun Qing consumed the rejuvenation pill. He felt traces of numbness in his meridians, and a long-lost vitality gradually spread throughout his body. Father? Even though Sun Mi was already mentally prepared, when he saw his father slowly becoming a young man similar to him, he couldn't help but be shocked. "Alright." Xiaohua smiled and said, "Sun Mi, this old man has already done what I promised you. Now, your father will follow this old man to find your Sun family's ancestral hall. You can wait at home by yourself." "Yes, spiritual master." In Sun Mi's eyes, Xiaohua was no less than a deity. Sun Mi respectfully replied, "Spiritual Master Xiao, please." Sun Qing and the others similarly bowed and said, Xiaohua nodded. He brought along the auspicious cloud and flew towards the ancestral hall. Zhu Cheng and Sun Qing carefully followed behind him. Chapter 3864. Along the way, Xiaohua scanned the area with his divine sense. He saw that the Zhu family really did have some tricks up their sleeves. Although they didn't have a lot of people, the distribution of food was much better than his. If nothing unexpected happened, the remaining 600,000 people in the 3 towns would no longer have to worry about their lives. As for the current Zhu Cheng, he actually already somewhat understood why Xiaohua brought him, Zeng and Sun Qing to find the ancestral shrine. This must be related to the bone he gave Xiaohua that year. It would be unrealistic to say that Zhu Cheng didn't have some thoughts in his heart. However, when Zhu Cheng thought about the kindness Xiaohua showed him that day, and the kindness he showed to the 3 families last night, as well as the kindness he showed to the millions of secular people in Wuyuan County, Jinyue County and Fancheng County, Zhu Cheng admittedly felt a bit bitter in his mouth. However, he already made a decision in his heart. For a benevolent and righteous cultivator like Taoist Xiao, some ordinary selfish motives really don't count for much. The 4 of them escaped underground. However, after just a few hundred feet, Sun Qing was unable to support himself. After Xiaohua sensed it, he simply waved his big sleeve and brought Zhu Cheng along with him to escape underground. Seeing that it was getting deeper and deeper, Zhu Cheng and the others were overwhelmed with shock. They didn't think that their ancestral shrine was actually hidden so well. If it weren't for Xiaohua, they wouldn't have been able to find it even after 10,000 years. It's here. Even Xiaohua himself found the location of that small dot with great difficulty after using Heaven's Eye. After Xiaohua waved his hand and laid down a barrier, he raised his hand and pointed. Here? Zeng looked left and right at the khaki-colored brilliance, but he really couldn't see anything. Zhu Cheng looked left and right, then asked tentatively, "Benefactor, is this an illusion outside the ancestral shrine?" As for Sun Qing, he simply didn't say anything, quietly waiting for Xiaohua to reveal it. Xiaohua slightly shook his head, then took out the bone and said with a smile, "Zhu Cheng, this is the heavenly book's true explanation left behind by your Zhu family. Do you know?" "Yes, this is an item left behind by my ancestors." Zhu Cheng straightened his face and nodded. "But even my ancestors couldn't understand the mystery in it for many generations, and my Zhu family was looked down upon by the Confucian cultivators in the world because of the true enlightenment of the heavenly book. Therefore, after you rescued me from the prison of the Bronze Pillar country, I offered this thing to you. This thing has nothing to do with my Zhu family anymore." "Hee, fellow immortal Zhu, you worry too much," Xiaohua said with a smile. "That's not what I meant. If it belongs to your Zhu family, this old man will return it to your Zhu family. Even if it belongs to the Zeng family or the Sun family, this old man will not covet it too much." "Spiritual master." Sun Qing glanced at Zhu Cheng and said, "You've given our 3 clans a new lease on life. If you have any orders, our 3 clans wouldn't dare to disobey. Since fellow immortal Zhu has already offered this item to our benefactor, I'm also willing to offer my clan's genealogy to our benefactor." "Yes, I'm the same," Zeng hurriedly echoed. "There's no need for that," Xiaohua said with a smile as he raised the bone. "There are 2 gathas engraved on it. Its ancestral wood resembling Xiantian Qi, genealogy silken descendants." "Oh!" Zhu Cheng, Sun Qing, and Zeng stared blankly for a moment. Xiaohua took out the book. With a wave of his hand, he once again used the silken cloth to wrap around the small bone. He said with a smile, "This old man is untalented." Previously, I had a fortuitous encounter and happened to obtain this book. Inside it, there's a strange silken cloth. Silken cloth? Zhu Cheng's heart tightened. He hurriedly asked, "Benefactor, is this the secret you were talking about earlier?" Xiaohua thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "I won't hide it from fellow immortal Zhu. Previously, this Xiao did indeed encounter another branch of your Zhu family. This book is the reward for helping them remove their curse." Thank the heavens! Zhu Cheng was truly speechless. He raised his hands and clasped them together towards the heavens as he prayed, "I also thank spiritual master Xiao for your care towards my Zhu family." Xiaohua said with a smile, "Of course, forgive this Xiao for not being able to tell you the location of that branch of Zhu family's descendants right now." No matter. Zhu Cheng said with a smile, "I'm already very happy to know that they're living freely in that place." Xiaohua pointed at the silken cloth and said, "The first line of the gatha is ancestral would resembling innate qi. This Xiao already saw it last night. Your 3 ancestral shrines should be together, right inside this silken cloth. The last line is clan records silken cloth descendant. We'll have to rely on the clan records of these 3 fellow immortals." "All right." Zhu Cheng was the first to agree. He took out the Zhu family's clan records. However, the clan records were placed beside the silken cloth without any changes. Sun Qing said in a low voice, "Descendant? Fellow immortal Zhu, since it's a descendant, how can we determine if it's a descendant of the Zhu family? I'm afraid it can only be my Zhu family's blood essence." Zhu Cheng was used to using blood essence to strengthen restrictions, so he was the first to think. "Old Master Zhu, you can try first." Zeng Qing nodded. "If nothing unexpected happens, it should be so." "All right." Zhu Cheng nodded and forced out his blood essence. When the blood essence fell on the clan records, red names rushed out from the clan records, like pink butterflies fluttering around the silken cloth. Seeing the noble qi faintly seeping out from the void, Xiaohua smiled and looked at Sun Qing. The excitement in Sun Qing's heart was not any less than Xiaohua's. He hurriedly took out the genealogy book and dropped a drop of blood essence onto the Sun family's genealogy book. Thus, just like Zhu Cheng, blue names flew out from the genealogy book one after another, corresponding to the red names. The red and blue characters danced on the silk, looking extremely beautiful. It's this little one's turn. At this moment, Zheng family had never felt so important before. Looking at Xiaohua's expectant gaze, Zheng family straightened his chest and said, "Not to mention blood essence, even if this little one's life is given to Taoist Xiao, this little one is also willing." As he spoke, Zheng family put his index finger in his mouth and bit off a piece of flesh. Blood flowed out from the finger. Fellow Taoist Zheng has taken out too much blood essence. Xiaohua smiled and said, "This Xiao owes you a favor." Zheng family's clan records felt hot in his heart. He took out the clan records and smeared the blood on his finger on the clan records. Wang. Yellow names flew out from the Zheng family's clan records. However, just as these names flew out, the red and blue names from before emitted buzzing sounds and rushed towards the yellow names. When the red, yellow, and blue characters collided, there was a rumbling sound. Strange inscriptions appeared from the three characters. When all the inscriptions fell on the silken cloth, the cloth rapidly shrank and wrapped around the tiny boom. When it was extremely small, Wanxiang birth appeared again. That small, almost invisible dot expanded with a loud rumble when the silk fell. The huge wave pushed Xiaohua and the others away by more than 300 meters. And within the silken cloth, an ancestral shrine that was also 100 feet in size appeared underground. Outside the ancestral shrine, red, yellow, and blue clouds shrouded the ancestral shrine. The ethereal atmosphere was as solemn as an immortal's palace. "Is this the Zhu family's ancestral hall?" Zhu Qing asked in disbelief as he looked at the majestic structure in front of him. "If there is no accident, this should be the ancestral shrine of your three families." Xiaohua looked at the simple and unadorned building and said with a smile, "You will know when you enter." "Taoist Xiao, please go first." Zhu Qing hurriedly raised his hand and said. Xiaohua waved his hand. "This is the ancestral shrine of the Zhu family, Zheng family, and Sun family. This Xiao is an outsider. You and the other masters should go first." But Zhu Qing didn't say much and agreed. He floated into the red, yellow, and blue clouds. Sure enough, the red clouds appeared and wrapped around Zhu Qing, slowly sending him into the ancestral shrine. "Oh, not good." Seeing the red clouds, Xiaohua's heart was moved. He suddenly thought, "Damn it, does this ancestral shrine also require bloodline to enter? Otherwise, how can it suppress the underworld judge?" After waiting for Zheng Qian and Sun Qing to enter the yellow and blue clouds respectively, Xiaohua also took a deep breath and rushed to the front of the three colored clouds. Sure enough, just as Xiaohua came in contact with the clouds, a gentle but tenacious force pushed Xiaohua, not allowing him to get close to the ancestral shrine. Following this divine sense, a cold shadow fell. Xiaohua's restriction was instantly torn apart by this cold shadow. The cold shadow was like a huge shadow that covered Xiaohua. Xiaohua simply didn't have any reaction, and immediately stood there blankly like a stone statue. However, this blankness only lasted for a moment. Xiaohua moved again. He raised his head and looked at the clouds that were close at hand. A trace of a strange smile appeared on his face. His raised leg fell down, and his entire figure disappeared into the silk of the ancestral shrine. Chapter 3865. Xiaohua had already entered the ancestral shrine, so he didn't notice the previous change. The warning sign of the barrier being torn apart was also blocked by the origin formation of the ancestral shrine. Xiaohua stood in front of the wooden door, squinting his eyes. The ancestral temple was made of blue bricks and green tiles, and the faint inscriptions on them flowed slowly with the clouds, isolating the divine sense. Moreover, Xiaohua could vaguely hear the sound of a wooden fish and the chanting of scriptures coming out of the ancestral temple. "It must be here," Xiaohua said with a smile. "It's most suitable to suppress the ghost judge in this ancestral shrine." Benefactor. Zhu Cheng, Sun Qing, and Zeng Zeng, who came in later, respectfully stood behind Xiaohua and whispered, "What about me? How do I get in?" Xiaohua raised his hand and said, "The three of you will naturally push open the door and enter." Then, Xiaohua explained, the clouds before were blocking the restriction of the ancestral shrine, preventing others from entering. Since we're already here, there shouldn't be any other obstacles. You just need to go in. All right. Zhu Cheng nodded, then knelt down in front of the wooden door and kowtowed. "This junior, Zhu Cheng, is unfilial. It wasn't until I entered that I found the Zhu family's ancestral hall. This junior kowtows and apologizes. I hope that the ancestors of the Zhu family will forgive this junior's sins." Zhu Cheng's tears flowed down as he spoke. Before Zhu Cheng could stand up, Sun Qing impatiently knelt down by Zhu Cheng's side. Tears similarly covered his face as he kowtowed and apologized, and the wild joy and regret on his face was obvious. He hesitated for a moment before kneeling on the other side of Zhu Cheng. Like Sun Qing, he kowtowed and whispered something as tears flowed down his cheeks. After the three of them finished kowtowing and repenting, they stood up, looked at each other, and walked to the front of the vermilion door. They solemnly raised their hands and pushed it in unison. "Understood." The sound of the wooden door being pushed open was very stiff. However, when the three of them looked into the ancestral hall, the three of them rushed in almost at the same time. He saw that it was a rather large room. It was empty inside, except for an altar at the head of the room. Behind the altar, there were three wooden statues standing on the wall. This wooden statue was precisely the one Xiaohua had seen in the night sky earlier. It was used to suppress the ghost judge. Of course, there were many deep holes on the three wooden statues. Some of the holes even penetrated their bodies. Zhu Zi and Zeng Zi's wooden statues had their arms and legs broken. Even more than half of Sun Zi's head had been cut off. There was no trace of it. However, although these wooden statues were damaged, Zhu Zi's wooden statue was covered in layers of faint red brilliance that swirled up clouds like surging sparks. On Sun Zi's and Zeng Zi's wooden statues, blue sparks and yellow sparks similarly swirled up clouds and surged towards the sparks. The three colored sparks contrasted with each other, and a mighty, solemn, dignified, and awe-inspiring aura emanated from the three wooden statues, enveloping the entire ancestral hall. "Ancestors?" The three of them rushed into the ancestral hall and respectfully kowtowed again. Only then did they look at the wooden statues of their ancestors. Xiaohua entered after them. Standing in front of the three wooden statues, he bowed and saluted. "Junior Xiaohua greets the three seniors." Last night, although Junior joined hands with the three seniors to resist the enemy, Junior's cultivation was limited. The damage to the three seniors' wooden statues was also Junior's fault. However, Junior asks the three seniors to be at ease. The ghost suppressed by the seniors has already been eliminated by Junior. The curse of the three seniors' descendants has also been broken by Junior. Whether it is Wuyuan County, Jingyue County, Fanchang County, or the Zhu, Xing, and Sun families, they are all safe now. Yes, Junior once again reports to the ancestors that Xiaohua, Taoist Xiao, is benevolent and righteous. His heart cares for the world, and there is no difference between Taoist and Confucian. With Taoist Xiao's help, the majority of the villagers in my Wuyuan County, Jingyue County, and Fanchang County were saved. Moreover, with Taoist Xiao's help, the villagers in the three counties also had food to tide over the disaster. Therefore, Junior brought Taoist Xiao to the ancestral shrine. If the ancestors left any shade in the ancestral shrine, Junior is willing to offer it to Taoist Xiao. We also have the same idea. Sun Qing and Zeng Qian also whispered to the wooden statues. The three people's voices had just faded when they saw that the originally empty offering table respectively flashed with three colored clouds. The clouds were precisely holding a book. On the book, Four large words flashed with dazzling light. Wasn't it, true explanation of the heavenly book? True explanation of the heavenly book? There really is such an item? Not only was Zhu Qing greatly shocked, even Xiao Hua was overjoyed. At this time, Zheng Qian, who was standing in front of Xiao Hua, suddenly laughed loudly. Haha, this world really has the true explanation of the heavenly book. With this item, this old man's literary star is just around the corner. You're not Zheng Qian, you? Who are you? Hearing this, Xiao Hua couldn't help but be greatly alarmed. As he berated, he waved his hand and grabbed the true explanation of the heavenly book out of thin air. Xiao Hua's heaven and earth sleeve technique was now very powerful. Damn thing! As soon as the scholar appeared, his face showed a fierce expression as he cursed. This old man didn't want to kill you, but you actually dared to use a spell to chase after this old man. Since that's the case, don't blame this old man for being ruthless. As he spoke, the scholar's figure strangely swelled, and a big hand like a huge palm leaf fan came grabbing at him. The big hand emitted a silver-white luster, and Xiao Hua simply couldn't dodge before it grabbed Xiao Hua's arm. Then, the luster on the big hand sharply increased, and it was sharper than a flying sword as it slashed at Xiao Hua's body. Damn it! Xiao Hua was really sullen. This scholar was definitely the strongest person he had ever seen. He could also be considered a Taoist cultivator with 1 foot in the 6th level of origin energy, but in front of this scholar he didn't have the slightest strength to resist. Clang! The silver-white luster fell and hit Xiao Hua's body, creating a series of sparks. Xiao Hua's Taoist robe was destroyed, but there wasn't a trace of injury on his body. Ka! At the same time, a golden light flashed, and Xiao Hua summoned the soaring dragon shears out of thin air, chopping at the silver-white big hand. A muffled groan, but it was actually suppressed pain that resounded in the air several dozen li away. The big hand quickly retreated, and Xiao Hua could clearly see that the scholar's sleeve had been cut off, and the silver-white skin on his arm was lacerated, and silver blood flowed out. Damn it, damn it, damn it! The scholar was extremely angry, and a thunderous roar surged around Xiao Hua. The scholar's figure also seemed to swell and become ethereal. Go! Xiao Hua's eyes slightly narrowed, and he calmly waved his hand. The soaring dragon shears flashed again in the air, and a golden light several hundred zhang long streaked across the vast sky. Unfortunately, the scholar's figure seemed to be a real shadow. The soaring dragon shears cut through the shadow, and in a moment, the shadow reconnected. Go to hell! Following the scholar's roar, Xiao Hua suddenly felt that the space several li to his left was extremely trembling, and long spatial cracks appeared without warning, quickly rushing towards him. The magic power in Xiao Hua's body froze, and he couldn't escape from this space. What if there were dozens of first tribulation scattered nascent souls? In Xiao Hua's opinion, even if the Confucian scholar didn't die, he would lose a layer of skin, right? As for all the scattered nascent souls coming out, Xiao Hua also thought about it. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua himself couldn't guarantee that he would survive under the lightning tribulation of 100 first tribulations scattered nascent souls. Boom! Under the lightning tribulation, the Confucian scholar hurriedly dodged. He didn't want to be affected by the lightning tribulation of the scattered nascent souls. However, even if he wanted to dodge, those dozens of scattered nascent souls weren't willing to let him dodge. These scattered nascent souls suddenly teleported towards the Confucian scholar, and all the lightning tribulations struck towards the Confucian scholar. Damn it! At this time, the Confucian scholar had already understood the intentions of these scattered nascent souls. Although he didn't know how Xiao Hua did this, he looked at Xiao Hua, who was also within the range of the lightning tribulation, laughed sinisterly, and teleported towards Xiao Hua. However, before the Confucian scholar could fly a few miles, the entire area within dozens of miles was filled with the power of heaven and earth. Not only the Confucian scholar, But Xiaohua and the dozens of scattered nascent souls were also imprisoned in place by the lightning tribulation, unable to move. Gotcha. What shocked Xiaohua was that even the imprisonment of the lightning tribulation didn't seem to be able to stop the Confucian scholar's struggle. The space shattered like glass, and the Confucian scholar actually moved, but his movement was rather slow. Cha-cha-cha. At this time, the lightning tribulation fell on the scattered nascent souls. The scattered nascent souls lowered their heads and closed their eyes, forming the same strange seals in their hands. As the scattered nascent souls' spirit bodies melted layer by layer in the lightning, mysterious talismans surged within the spirit bodies. These talismans absorbed the power of the lightning tribulation while transforming the spirit bodies. All the scattered nascent souls grew healthily with the flickering lightning. The lightning tribulation naturally also affected the Confucian scholar and Xiaohua. Layers of lightning whistled towards the two of them. While the Confucian scholar gritted his teeth to resist the lightning, he glared fiercely at Xiaohua. As for Xiaohua, his lightning cultivation had already reached a certain level. His heavenly phoenix demon body flashed with a bronze brilliance under the lightning, looking quite relaxed. The Confucian scholar narrowed his eyes and did his best to resist the lightning tribulation. He secretly thought, after the lightning tribulation, this old man will definitely kill this brat. However, before the Confucian scholar could think, he saw the dozens of nascent souls suddenly raise their heads in unison. Their eyes flashed with a kind of mockery. Then, the dozens of nascent souls raised their hands at the same time. As the dozens of small hands rubbed, the lightning tribulation that fell on the nascent souls suddenly moved and swept towards the capital star formation. The Confucian scholar was shocked and hurriedly shouted, How is this possible? Yes, this was the lightning of the lightning tribulation. How could nascent souls control it? But the Confucian scholar didn't know that the dozens of nascent souls in Xiaohua's lower dantian were constantly being bombarded by the 5 qi righteous thunder. Although the 5 qi righteous thunder couldn't be considered a real lightning tribulation, the dozens of nascent souls were already very familiar with it. And now, the power of the lightning tribulation had been integrated into the bodies of the nascent souls. Although the lightning tribulation was the power of heaven and earth, the essence of the lightning tribulation was also lightning. The dozens of nascent souls had long been familiar with lightning. Although it was a bit difficult to control the power of the lightning tribulation, it wasn't impossible. Seeing the lightning tribulation of the dozens of nascent souls hit him, the Confucian scholar's face revealed a rare look of despair. There was even a trace of regret in his eyes. Of course, under the roaring power of heaven and earth, he didn't have any extra reaction. In an instant, the lightning completely drowned the Confucian scholar and Xiaohua like an ocean wave. The power of heaven and earth was difficult to fathom, let alone when all the lightning tribulation hit together. Even Xiaohua, who had already gone through many lightning tribulations and cultivated the lightning escape technique, with the heavenly phoenix demonic body and the bloodline of the absolute saint, Xiaohua's body turned into flowing liquid under the lightning. Damn it! Xiaohua endured the indescribable pain all over his body and the impact of heaven and earth's aura on his soul. He couldn't help but curse in his heart, I'm rich. I never thought that the lightning tribulation would be so powerful when stacked together. Compared to the lightning tribulation of the legacy realm. Oh, it should be like this. Seeing that the lightning tribulation was like a huge furnace that wanted to refine his body, Xiaohua suddenly had a trace of understanding. The absolute saint bloodline within the 13,200 million small dots in his body was once again stimulated. Under the impact of the lightning tribulation, it actually accelerated the fusion. Xiaohua's current demonic body was unable to cope with this kind of lightning tribulation, let alone the Confucian scholar. Under the roar of the lightning tribulation, the Confucian scholar seemed to have disappeared, and there was no other sound. When the lightning clouds gradually disappeared and the lightning tribulation subsided, Xiaohua's torn body was revealed. There were only 3 wooden statues floating in the air where the Confucian scholar had been. The wooden statues were riddled with holes by the lightning tribulation and looked like they would turn into ashes with just a slight movement. However, the 3 colored sparks in the ashes were still flickering with a faint brilliance. Huff! Xiaohua let out a weak groan. He moved his arm with difficulty, and blood immediately burst out from his shoulder. However, Xiaohua didn't care about the damage to his body. He grinned and still waved his hand. The soul-slaying yuan light was released. As he chanted an incantation, the thing with a nose and eyes appeared from the sword gourd. Suddenly, the Zhuzi wooden statue let out the same weak voice. Then, a shadow flashed out from the wooden statue. Unfortunately, before the shadow could reach the wooden statue, the soul-slaying yuan light turned into an arc and fell on the head of the shadow. The illusory figure waved both of his hands, and a pillar of noble qi tried to penetrate the void. However, because the illusory figure was too weak, he couldn't control the noble qi at all. Taking advantage of this perfect opportunity, the spirit-slaying vital light flashed between the illusory figure's head, and the illusory figure immediately split from the middle. Boom! At the same time, the green-robed Xiaohua flew over from afar and released the Kunlun mirror. The remaining shadow was once again destroyed by the 3-colored pillar of light. Come in. Xiaohua still didn't feel at ease. He released his mind and swept up the soul of the shadow that was about to enter the cycle of reincarnation. With the help of the origin power of the underworld, he took it into the inside of the space. Phew! Sensing that the soul of the scholar had been taken into the space, Xiaohua let out a long sigh of relief. Looking around, he saw that the dozens of first tribulation scattered nascent souls were now standing quietly in the air. Xiaohua understood that these first tribulation scattered nascent souls were different from first tribulation scattered immortals. Their strength was at most at the initial stage of the spirit-severing stage. Although their strength couldn't compare to that of a scattered immortal, they had more chances to pass the Mahayana stage lightning tribulation. Congratulations, fellow Taoists. Xiaohua smiled and bowed. Many thanks, fellow Taoists. Although these dozens of scattered nascent souls weren't Xiaohua's doppelgangers, they were still controlled by Xiaohua. Hee, fellow Taoists, please come back. Let's comprehend the great Tao together. Xiaohua patted his forehead and dozens of lightning bolts rushed out from his lower dantian. Each of them led a scattered nascent soul and took them into his body. Immediately, Xiaohua swept up the 3 already tattered wooden statues and flew to the ancestral shrine of the 3 families. When he entered the ancestral shrine with Once, who still hadn't woken up, Zhu Cheng and Sun Qin hurriedly greeted him and asked, "Benefactor, what happened?" The novel The Legend of the Cultivation God will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform. At the same time, there will be a 100% chance of drawing a big gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click the plus sign at the top right to add friend, search for the public account, Kdred, and follow it. Hurry up! Chapter 3867. The cultivator entered the ancestral shrine by borrowing his former body. This has nothing to do with the past. Xiaohua was currently extremely weak, so he made a long story short. This cultivator has already been killed by this Xiao. As for who he is, this Xiao also doesn't know. If I'm not mistaken, he should be related to a scholarly family. Then he deserves to die. How could Zhu Qing not understand? Since this scholarly family was able to chase him to this place, this scholarly family must be one of the 3 scholarly families that persecuted the 3 families. They might even be the main culprit. Since this scholarly cultivator was able to borrow his former body, this scholarly cultivator's strength was far beyond his own. Even if he knew, it would be useless. However, there was still hatred in his heart, so he said in a low voice. Xiaohua placed the tattered wooden statue on the sacrificial table and said with some regret, "It's a pity that the true enlightenment of Heavenly Book was also destroyed." At this point, Xiaohua's eyes lit up and he said with a smile, "If possible, I would like to ask the 3 of you to work hard." What's going on? Is this the ancestral shrine? When did I enter the ancestral shrine? After being awakened by Sun Qing, Zhong Shou frowned and pinched his aching head. He looked left and right and whispered in astonishment. Ancestor? Zhu Qing didn't answer Zhong Shou's question. Instead, he knelt down in front of the wooden statue and prayed. Sun Qing naturally echoed him. Zhong Shou didn't dare to neglect and also recited what seemed to be familiar words. After the three finished praying, a three-colored light flashed on the sacrificial table and another true enlightenment of heavenly book appeared. Good. Xiao Hua clapped and said with a smile, "The sage's words are indeed trustworthy. This Xiao thanks you." Xiao Hua waved his hand and the true enlightenment of heavenly book fell into his hand. However, this time, there was no abnormality. After Xiao Hua opened the true enlightenment of heavenly book and looked at it for a moment, his face couldn't help but reveal an expression of surprise. So that's how it is? Is this real? Xiao Hua closed the true enlightenment of heavenly book and put it into the space. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the wooden statue while secretly pondering. After a while, Zhu Qing asked in a low voice, "Benefactor, is there anything wrong?" Zhu Qing, Sun Qing, Zheng Zheng. Xiao Hua moved his gaze away from the wooden statue, looked at the three people, and said word by word, "The true explanation of the heavenly book is just a guess. It's a strange sign that the three saints, Zhu Zi, Sun Zi, and Zheng Zi, discovered when they were comprehending the ancient secrets. This might be a mystery of heaven and earth, or it might be the true essence of Confucian cultivation. However, they still couldn't find the truth. Therefore, by telling you the secrets inside, I am not only not helping you, but also pushing you into the abyss of death." And the guesses of the three literary saints can be realized by this Xiao. This Xiao is also looking forward to seeing if the guesses of the three literary saints are true. Xiao Hua continued, "Therefore, this Xiao wants to take away the items within the three wooden statues according to the records of the heavenly book true explanation." "Yes, I have no objections." Zhu Qing immediately replied, "When I gave the bone to Benefactor, the things in the ancestral hall already belonged to Benefactor. So did the two of us." Sun Qing and Zheng Zi hastily replied. Xiao Hua said somewhat awkwardly, "If the wooden statues of the three saints were in good condition, this Xiao would have taken them, but now, if the Xiao takes them, these wooden statues will immediately turn into ashes, so this Xiao is in a bit of a dilemma. Benefactor, please take them." Zhu Qing looked at Sun Qing and Zheng Zi, then said to Xiao Hua with a smile, "The voices and smiles of the three ancestors have already been engraved in our hearts. These wooden statues are just a kind of sustenance. Now, these wooden statues are even more tattered. We feel even more uncomfortable looking at them. Presumably, Benefactor also understands that compared to these wooden statues, the prosperity of our three clans' descendants is more important." Good. Hearing this, Xiao Hua didn't hesitate. He patted his forehead, four-colored Zhenqi rushed out and covered the three wooden statues. Then, Xiao Hua didn't release the 6 cauldrons, he just let the 6 cauldrons qi flow out slightly from his middle dantian. Woo woo. A faint sound of wind came out from the wooden statues, 3 red, yellow, and blue Zhenqi, which were smaller than the tip of a needle, transformed into sparks and flew out from the wooden statues, following the 4-colored Zhenqi into Xiao Hua's middle dantian. Hong. As the 3 sparks fell into Xiao Hua's middle dantian, it seemed that the endless noble qi in the void condensed into a small qi pillar and fell into Xiao Hua's middle dantian. The 4-colored Zhenqi immediately overflowed with brilliance. Countless colors were born in the middle dantian. At the same time, the 6 cauldrons that had just been moved into Xiao Hua's middle dantian from the void also let out an extremely loud rumbling sound. They still transformed into huge cauldrons. 6 streaks of qi rushed out from the 6 cauldrons and danced around the Zhen qi that was constantly changing colors. One after another, incomplete images were born in the flowing light. These images were either mountains, rivers, the land, or the people, but no matter what the images were, the people or things in them were vivid and lifelike, as if they were full of vitality. Living qi. The qi that makes people live. Is this the true essence of Confucian cultivation? Is this red, yellow, and blue innate qi the legendary heaven soul that no one has ever seen before? Xiao Hua sensed the changes in his middle dantian and secretly muttered in his heart, but if I want to know the truth inside, the first thing I have to do is to find the last Jin qi and gather all 9 cauldrons. Only when the heaven soul and earth soul are complete can the Zhen qi give birth to human qi. That's right, if you think about it carefully, isn't the 3-colored innate qi the soul of the beginning of the world? Moreover, the 3 colors also correspond to the 3 souls of people. As for the earth soul, it's not the so-called 9 cauldrons, but the qi of qi or dragon qi contained in the 9 cauldrons. These qi of qi were born from the earth. Isn't it called the 9 souls because it corresponds to the 7 souls of people? Of course, these names were all given by Confucian saints, and the reason for naming them was also related to the human race. These vague connections were not too out of Xiao Hua's expectations. But what made Xiao Hua the most surprised was that the essence of Confucian cultivation was actually qi. This qi was not innate qi, not noble qi, nor innate qi, but human qi. That breath of qi that gave people vitality. Zhu Zi, Sun Zi, and Xing Zi, these 3 saints' guesses were correct. Then the direction of cultivation of all Confucian cultivators in the entire hidden immortal continent was wrong. A breath of qi of a living person. Xiao Hua sighed with emotion. I don't know how many legends and stories have this kind of miraculous description, but as long as a lucky person, even if they have already become bones, once they meet an immortal pill can make the bones grow flesh, and a breath of immortal qi can make the person come back to life. Therefore, people in the secular world all want to cultivate to become an immortal. But if you cultivate for a long time, you will know, not to mention that there are more and more mysteries in the world, it's impossible to have an immortal pill that can make the bones grow flesh, and that breath of immortal qi that can make the person come back to life definitely doesn't exist in the world. Making the person come back to life involves too many secrets of the heavenly Tao, the soul, reincarnation, the underworld, and so on. Any one of them is not something a cultivator can easily come into contact with. The so-called resurrection is nothing but a beautiful legend of the ignorant. Previously, this Xiao really didn't believe that the so-called immortals could have such great magical power, but if the 3 saints of literature's guesses are correct, according to the explanation of the true explanation of Heavenly Book, cultivating the 5 qis unifying one's origin, it's really possible to reach the realm of 3 flowers at one's prominence. Using the qi in the middle dantian, it's not necessarily impossible to bring the dead back to life. What a pity! Everything was just the guesses of the 3 literary saints. Even when they reached the realm of ascension, they still couldn't comprehend anything. They only left behind the 3 Xiantian qi fire seeds that they obtained by chance, waiting for fate to bring them back. The 3 saints of literature naturally hoped that the 3 saints of literature would be able to comprehend the mysteries of the world, but unfortunately, they didn't know that they were suppressing the clone of the Judge of Hell, and there were too many entanglements of life and death in it. Not only did it cause the 3 clans' descendants to almost go extinct, but it also caused the secret of the true explanation of Heavenly Book to disappear in the dust of time. Now it's all for nothing. When he thought of this, Xiao Hua sighed again. An indescribable understanding came from the hand of karma in the space.